580-5436, 580-KIDO as we continue to celebrate 40 years of Boise State Blue. A great story on our website. You know, Boise State, like a lot of us, except for Jonathan Savage, we always are looking for more money. So we came up with 10 local international companies that could be a sponsor on their jersey. Of course, Mr. Savage joins us now, and he's with that highfalutin Premier League or Schmemeer League or whatever. They're used to, you know, here come the Red Bulls, everybody. Not like the Broncos, but, you know, here come the Bottles. And here comes Bartlett and James, and they're representing Liverpool. And good morning, sir.
What are you on about? Good morning. Sure. I mean, look, you know that I am a passionate soccer fan. And I know that deep down you respect the game as well. So you know, you don't need to. You got nothing to prove here today with your insults.
That's how I show my affection. Number one. Number two, I had an hour and a half yesterday chat with Mountsville, so I'm feeling especially powerful. You ever played indoor soccer at all?
Yeah, I have. I've played a bit in like sort of school gymnasium type environments, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was really big back in the day, and I can remember actually I was hauling my big caboose up and down. I found indoor soccer on the turf very exciting, much more exciting than okay, there's the pitch, there's the patch, there's I don't know, a scratch.
I was at a game last Saturday, Forth for Athletic versus Stirling Albion, in front of 473 poor souls who had to endure the lowest level of Scottish professional football. But I would not have been anywhere else for all the world, especially given some of the local baked delicacy, some of the pastries they have up there. They take your eyes and your mind away from a pretty horrible game of soccer.
And I imagine it's still hot.
Not hot, but certainly not in Scotland. I think it was raining. Here in London, it's
no.
Not
The last time we talked, you said, "Oh, it's hot. It's 85, Kevin. I don't know what to do."
Is that your Scottish accent? It's not hot here. No, it's in fact it's about probably not even 70 at the moment. And we've got some light rain passing through London today. It's much needed rain because we are in drought. We have had very little rain this summer, and our reservoirs are only half full. We're all a bit worried about this, but hopefully we can return to proper British weather in the weeks to come, especially because I'm away on vacation. That's the good time for it to rain in London.
What? So you're leaving next week?
Yes, today's my last day until September. So yeah, I won't be around. You'll get a chance to refuel and recharge, and I'll get a chance to do the same.
Well, great for you. Not so great for us. We rely on you to get us rolling, to get us going. And sadly, you're touring the world again. Will you be going to the AEW show? It's in Glasgow. Is that right?
It is in Glasgow, the one before All In. No, I won't. I'll still be on the beach, unfortunately, when that's happening. Sadly, I'm not going to be in the country. But, you know, you watch it for me and tell me how it goes. Tell me how the Scots treat our beloved performers.
Well, I think I don't know. I'm really thinking about buying All In. But before we continue on with the last Jonathan Savage, at least until September, look, you know how radio works. Old Kev might not be back, but we have our back channel of getting hold of each other. And you'll go, since you're not on the radio, I don't really talk to you anymore, Kevin Miller. So until you get a job in, let's say, Pocatello or Logan or Salt Lake or Portland, I won't be talking to you. See, that's how the radio people are. They're your buddies until they're not. There's always John Mounts, though.
To you more. If anything, I'd probably talk to you more than I do now. I'd probably just be trying to fill a sad void in my life if you were not here to talk to. It's what it is. It's 6:04 your time, 6:08 your time on a Thursday morning.
Look, I I know your tricks. You talk to that Simon Kyman, that English guy in Iowa or Florida, wherever he's pretending to be from. You talk to JT in Mountsville. You go to Goofy in New Hampshire. You go to all the big stops. So, I mean, again, don't try to give us the rub, because we were born with the rub here. We're the potato cartel. Yesterday was National Potato Day, and not a happy potato day from you. So I understand you're a charmer, sir.
You know that today's National Radio Day. Speaking of national days, National Radio Day today. It's the day when we celebrate ourselves, and we kind of have to, because who else does?
I would agree with that. I look at us as the last of the Jedis. You're more of a Hogwarts guy, I would say, than a Jedi.
At least you didn't call me Sith. That would have been worse.
Look, Bo's a Sith, and he knows he's a Sith Lord. And I'm just going to tell you, I have never watched Potter. I'm not going to watch Potter. I grew up when men were men. Chuck Norris, God rest his soul, would not watch Potter, and I'm not going down Potter and his little broomstick ride either.
Do you know for sure that Chuck Norris wasn't a Harry Potter fan? Is this confirmed?
Look, I'm going to hit you with so many lefts you're going to beg for. I'm going to hit you with so many lefts, you're going to beg for a right. That guy would never go, hey, get your drumstick or broomstick or whatever, your magic wand. He was a magic wand.
He was, wasn't he? Oh, well, there'll never be another like him. I mean, we can try and replicate him, but I don't think we will.
No. Speaking of replication, it isn't looking good for Zelensky. Now an internal probe could be the end, or a big challenge for your boy Zelensky.
Certainly, it is a bit of a challenge for him. Corruption has been a big problem in Ukraine for a very long time. He has promised to get hold of it, and now an anti-corruption investigation has reached his office. The president himself is not implicated, but he has fired the deputy head of his presidential office. Her name is Irina Mudra. She's had her premises searched. She says she's cooperating with investigators and will defend her reputation, but the two main anti-corruption bodies in Ukraine allege that a group laundered more than $3 million, including Irina Mudra from President Zelensky's office, a former MP, and senior figures in a state-owned bank. So this is one of Ukraine's long-term biggest problems, particularly sensitive in wartime, because, of course, Western countries supplying billions in aid, and Ukraine is asking for more. So it's a political embarrassment for President Zelensky.
Our great friend Jonathan Savage joining us. So how much longer do we have with you, sir?
You got 4 minutes with me, if you can stand me for that long.
All right, 580 KIDO. 4 minutes left with Jonathan Savage. You know, we take a look at this Iranian situation. The president saying he's going to give them the economic woozy-doozy, if you will. What's going on again? I know I get redundant. Sometimes I'm sure you probably get tired of answering the same questions from all of your fan clubs, but any action in Europe on this?
Action in Europe? Not really, no. Europe is continuing to watch, worry, wring their hands, and deal with the economic consequences. Our inflation rose to a higher level in the UK yesterday, and we've been told to expect the consequences of the Iran situation to last well into next year, even if it ends this year. And President Trump wants it to end, but it looks like he is trying to do it in a way that it does not involve the military so much, but more economic pressure on Iran and any country which does business with Iran. He posted on Truth Social to say that any country that allows its institutions to provide any kind of lifeline to Iran will face tremendous economic consequences. He said, you know who you are. This a day after the United Arab Emirates said it would cut off all its ties with Iran. The effort to try and squeeze the Iranians continues.
And finally, any final thoughts, if this is our last dalliance here on 580 KIDO?
Final thoughts for our last dalliance of the official meteorological summer.
Well, no. I mean, look, I always, in all seriousness, we lost a lot of people. And you never get a chance to say goodbye. And whenever I leave, I think, well, maybe I'm not coming back. So, and it's a radio thing. It's National Radio Day. Would you like to summarize your time with us here, sir?
Well, look, radio has been a part of my life as long as I can remember. I hope it stays a part of my life for until I lose my marbles, which sometimes doesn't feel that far off. And being a part of it, getting to talk to people in Boise, all over the world, getting to talk to you is a daily privilege. And hopefully you can continue putting up with my nonsense for some time to come. And I hope that the people of Idaho and people of Boise can continue to put up with your nonsense too.
We appreciate that. If not, we'll live in the internet. Enjoy your time off, sir.
Thank you. Take care.
There we have it. We you could tell he was a little busy there. He had to go. We love Jonathan Savage. And again, not that he's going anywhere, but we won't catch him for another 17 weeks, probably right before the Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic, brought to you by Micron and so many other local great sponsors. Thank you to Micron. Thank you. And nobody's saying, look, one of the things that I always tell the truth as much as I can. And no one is saying, oh, they're forcing you. No, they're not. Quite frankly, when you look at this business environment, there are, it's National Radio Day. There are people that are unique to this breed. Everybody has their uniqueness. The roofers have uniqueness. The salespeople have their uniqueness. The lawyers have their uniqueness, right? I think every family should have a lawyer or a doctor and a lawyer, or doctor-lawyer in them, like our old friend Dr. Pate, right? Wouldn't that be great if we had that? Because if you had a legal question, you could just ask that person legally, and you could get the free guidance, if you will. The point I'm being is that when we lost Larry Gebert, when we lost Teresa, when we lost Rick Hogebaum, when we lost Roland, to me, it hit me and it changed my DNA forever. And, our own health issues, maybe your health issues, my health issues, you always want to make sure you say goodbye to people because you never know. And I know a lot of people say it's never goodbye, it's till the next time. And it could be the next time on the other side or what have you. But you never know. So we wish him well. I'm sure he'll be back. I'm sure I'll be here. But as I said before, it's always great to be real. It's not a show. This is an old shoe where we get the privilege of talking to one another, sometimes respectfully, sometimes not respectfully, but always truthfully from the heart. So I do appreciate people supporting these events, supporting this station, supporting this program, like our friends at Hearing Connection. We love Hearing Connection. We know you have a lot of choices, but Hearing Connection has, I remember years and years ago, we met with them and they said, Kevin Miller, we really love what you stand for. We love the program. We may not agree with you, but I don't think you agree with yourself all the time. But, they provide a great quality service, and they are our recommended hearing provider at 488-3255, 208-488-3255. If you find yourself, being frustrated, and it's a generational thing. Maybe it's a boomer thing since everybody likes to bash the boomers. Far be it from me to be a boomer defender, but I don't like it when people pick on other people. So maybe you've been taught because your parents were in the Depression or your grandparents were in the Depression, you just move on. Maybe you're not as the first person to go see a doctor or to get your hearing checked. You can just deal with things. Don't deal with hearing loss. Don't deal with hearing missed issues. Call them now, 488-3255, Hearing Connection, and just find out what's going on, 488-3255. And again, please tell them Kevin Miller sent you. It helps us out. It helps us keep this viable program going. I'm not going to be like the people on YouTube there that go, hey, subscribe so I can keep my job. I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to say it does help. And like I said, when you have people, like Micron and others, businesses of all areas, shapes, and sizes that allow us to put on the Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic, it's a big thing. And we do appreciate that. And we do appreciate the ability to do this. I know the team here, they go out in the middle of the night to set up. It's cold. I know you're thinking it's cold. Yeah, it's cold. And those balloons go up day after day. And, of course, the big night glow and the crescendo over the weekend. I know Mrs. Miller loves Sunday, not as big of a crowd, and it's more of a church-based, faith-based day. So there's really a day for everyone at the Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic coming up very, very soon when Jonathan Savage returns. So we appreciate that. A little touchy-feely segment to start the program. Our phone number, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We move on. We'll talk a little bit about the Iranian situation, the political situation, and it's funny that if I were doing a national conservative podcast, that I would be looking at a couple of issues. And since we have the freedom to talk about both local and national issues, I'll share them with you next. And of course, we always love taking direction. We'd love to hear your feedback at 580-5436. Kevin Miller on 580-KIDO. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Have you ever wanted to be involved in politics? And politics is a fascinating field. There are people that want to be movie stars. Now people want to be TikTok stars. Our friend John Mounts, Sweet William, and I were talking yesterday, and he says, "Well, you know, Kevin, if you want to be a star, you've got to get on the TikTok." And I go, "The TikTok? I'm not selling out to the Chinese. I'm not doing any of that. I'm not rolling on that nature." And when I'm talking about the TikTok here, I'm looking at this and I'm going, people want to be big stars with the TikTok. And people want to achieve things. Some people work their whole lives looking for that affirmation or recognition. And maybe that's what makes them great, is they never find it. They're always searching. They're not normal. And here we have a young lady that was outed by Jonathan Swan and Maggie Hagerman. And you're going, or Haberman. They wrote the book Regime Change, and they keep selling the book, and they're buddies with everybody in the media because the media people keep promoting the book. And in this book, they point out to a young lady who almost died of cancer. And she gave President Trump credit for saving her life. And now President Trump has her as his wingman. As I said before, there are a lot of things you could call President Trump. I think he could redo Charlie's Angels, because most of his out front staff, they're not the stodgy Sean Spicer, but they're, Kayleigh McEnany, what is her name? Carolyn Levitt. They're very blonde. And this young lady, Natalie Harp, could be your daughter, could be your granddaughter. She's at the right hand of the president. So Haberman, and Swan out her in this book. And after they out her, you have John Ossoff making the allegations. And we all know, wink, wink, nod, nod, that there's an affair going on, that he's alleging that. Well, he never said that. When he says, you just want to fly with Natalie in your little Qatari-built palace. Are you kidding me? And by the way, I go back to this. Now I'm looking at Forbes, New York Times, CNN, Ossoff going, amazing to watch this White House meltdown over Harp comment. Some people are jealous of her. But you think she's a 35-year-old woman, born in 1991, graduated Liberty University, Lorma Nazarene University. And she's a White House appointee. She's in the room all the time. She has the job that every Politico person dreams of. And she's right there, rolling. And it's just amazing. My apologies. Let's get to Patriot Ray on 580-KIDO. Hello, Patriot Ray.
You're fine, Kevin. You know what's great about being in Idaho is we get to wake up and listen to Kevin Miller, to those who understand what he is all about, trying to help Idaho as much as you can. You have these great events that you go to support that gives people hope, that people in the United States still love this country and care about it. You know, when I sang my little song a week or so ago, whatever it was now, it's a long time ago, I needed to try to put in some of the things that I felt about Kevin Miller, because you bring so much to our state that we appreciate that you allow us to get on the air, say our little bits, spend a little bit of time with you. I mean, I was blessed to have almost 5 years of coming into the studio with you and spending that time. It's something that I will treasure. And yes, time is short. We don't really realize how short it is until we lose someone that we cared so much for and about. For me, almost 60 years of being married to the sweetest lady in the world. But, you know, Kevin, when we wake up and we hear your voice, we hear the people that call in that support Idaho, love America, love our president, love what he's trying to accomplish, and yet you see the people on the left who they have so much hate in their hearts that they don't love America. They don't love what's trying to happen. I mean, they complain about everything. And like it's been said, if he cured cancer, they would complain about that. So we look at what he's doing for our White House. For 150 years, they've tried to do something to improve the White House and do something that would give class to our country when dignitaries from other countries come and visit, and they get to be able to see the greatness of the United States. I mean, we saw it during the Olympics when people from other countries came and they said they've been lied to. This is not a hateful country. They were accepted. They got to see the great food that we eat. They got to be in places that allowed them to be free. And they don't have that in their own countries. And they just said they've been lied to all these years. And our own people who are in office that we place there don't have love for our country. They have hate for everything. They don't love you. I mean, they have been in charge and over people of color for decades and decades and have done nothing to improve their lives except, well, we're going to promise you free everything. And then it becomes a communist country, because once you've got everything free, they can absolutely take everything away from you. So God bless you, Kevin, for being there, for taking the time that you do off hours to support great organizations like the Boise Mission. And we love you for that. We love the opportunity that we get to spend a little bit of time with you, at least a couple of times a year. And that is wonderful. So God bless you, Kevin. Stay fired up. Be the man that you are always, because we appreciate that and we appreciate you. So God bless.
God bless you, Patriot Ray. Patriot Ray, you still there or are you out?
I am here. I'm still here.
Okay. Now, you are the most excited person for this fun run. Have you been recruiting your team, your 580 Patriot Ray team? Have you? You told me you were going to do that. What are you doing?
I'm going to do that today. I'm going to get signed up, and I'm going to put it under the Patriot Ray, the KIDO team. So I will get that done today. I've been really busy trying to get things accomplished at my house, and things are coming together. And you and I need to talk sometime, because I need to let you know my stories of what's taken place. And I'm just so grateful to be an American. I'm so grateful to be in the United States. I'm so grateful to be in Idaho. I mean, I've been here. This is my 39th year in Idaho. So I've lived here longer than any place else. Born in Springfield, Ohio, a great place to be from. Wouldn't want to be there today. But it was a great place to be from. And I spent many years in California, but I've been in Idaho longer than any place. And we are so appreciative of that. God bless. I mean, what else can you say? But we lived in the greatest nation in the world. And the young people today, because of what the education they're given, they don't appreciate our country. We used to know history. They don't know history anymore. They're just told how horrible we are because we had slaves. I never owned a slave. My family never owned a slave that I'm aware of, maybe back in the early days. But I didn't own a slave, so why do I have to pay reparations? Irish people were slaves. Who's paying reparations to them? Chinese people were slaves. Who's paying reparations to them? This is all about we hate people, and that's what they're doing. They're just spewing hate every chance they get. So once again, Kevin, thank you for what you're doing, and I am going to get that done today as soon as I get home. God bless.
Well, we're going to talk to Jeff Bacon today, so thank you very much. We appreciate you, and God bless you, old friend. Do want to remind you, thank you to Hearing Connection for their sponsorship of the program. Their number again, 488-3255, 488-3255, convenient locations, specifically in Meridian throughout the Treasure Valley. Let's get you to work the right way at 580. Just the hatchet job on this Natalie Harp young lady, 35 years old, should be really praised for her work, her dedication to the president. And yet here we have people going on and on and on about her and, making fun of people. And you think to yourself, this of the schoolyard bullies. And let's hope and let's pray and let's take a look at everything that we don't have any schoolyard bullies. But the idea that we have this guy Ossoff, 38 years old, and I got to give it to Chandler. He looks like central casting out of Hollywood, taking a shot at women. You don't take shots at women anymore. And the White House fired back hard, as they should. They're protecting their own. But, I don't know if I can say this. It's early. Hopefully, we could say this, because I think that, again, there's no more purveyor of the truth than talk radio. And you go online, and the difference between being online is you have a lot of vulgarity. Which, look, there are a lot of people that like to swear. Kevin Miller likes to swear. But it takes away from your message. And truthfully, I think that the Democratic Party, if I were doing a national show, I think they have a white guy problem. And you take a look at, you've got Ossoff, he's 38 years old. He's white and he's straight. Gavin Newsom, he's white, he's straight, on his second marriage. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And what is he doing? He's bragging about giving taxpayer money to illegals in the form of health care. The next time you see your deductible, take a look at that one. And you've got Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania, another white guy. Remember, this is the party of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is the party of, AOC and Sesame Street and everything else. But they definitely have a white guy problem. So if I were writing a national column, I would say, I think they got too many white guys. Now, remember, and too many young white guys, although I don't believe Shapiro and Newsom are very young. Ossoff, he's like, could you imagine Ossoff AOC? Or you really want to go crazy, AOC Ossoff? It would have to be Ossoff AOC because A, she's young, and B, she still, hasn't denounced the woke enough. Anyway, here's Ossoff now saying he's a victim.
Watch this White House melt down over this all week. And about Natalie Harp, these White House staffers are adults, public officials paid by the taxpayer with immense power in positions of public trust. And whether it's Natalie Harp printing out Donald Trump's daily dose of delusion and
yeah, and she may be working the public, but she's not a public official. And that's his mistake. Sean Hannity today at 1 with Kevin Miller at 580 KIDO.
Okay, the whole thing is you have to remember it's the ideas that are preeminent in human beings, right? It's the ideas. And so consequently, the love, the passion, the idea swapping back and forth. Okay, if you find a young lady that you have those connections, you do not necessarily have to engage in, the physical, basics, spit swapping or, DNA swapping there. You can have that relationship and those ideas and committed to each other with those through ideas, right? Through thinking. Okay, I mean, and there can be some passion there, but and there can be certain relationships with men and women, and I think there always are. But nonetheless, I think that that devotion and the ideas that are there, you know, are something that I think in that relationship, I think that's preeminent with the president and this aide. You know, but you see, what always happens is people don't understand human nature, and they're always going to think that everything is going to boil down to swapping spit, when not necessarily. It's swapping ideas also. But there is this crazy relationship that always exists between men and women. And certainly when you get to the point where you are swapping ideas and those ideas, and it's very, very powerful idea swapping, and you seem to be on the same level, then, you know, certainly swapping spit could happen, but not necessarily. It just depends on the circumstances and situations.
This conversation makes no sense.
Well, okay, that's fine. I don't care. I think it makes sense to some people. Maybe it doesn't make sense to you, bro. Maybe it just doesn't make sense to you. I mean, you and I, you know, we're not on the same page on many things. I mean,
we're defending a 35-year-old woman, and you're talking, I mean, how many times have you said swapping spit in 10 seconds? I mean, come on.
Right.
And to say that men and women can't be friends, that it's, you know, it's all about swapping spit and all those things. Come on, bro. Get real.
I didn't say that. That's exactly not what I said.
Well, that's what we've heard. That's what we've heard again and again and again from you. That's what's coming across.
No. Well, okay. What I said was you don't necessarily have to be swapping spit, right? Okay, what you could do, you swap ideas. Okay, which is more powerful than swapping spit, right? Okay, the ideas are the most powerful thing there is, right? Okay, I mean, ideas are more powerful than nuclear weapons. So what I'm saying is that...
I wouldn't say that to the Japanese.
Well, okay, it's ideas that actually develop the nuclear weapons, Kevin. Okay, so you got to go to first principles thinking, bro. Got to go to first principles thinking. Yeah. So
I don't know if an idea has ever literally blown up cities and scared everybody with mutually assured destruction. But go ahead, Al.
Yeah. No. It's the ideas that generate the nuclear weapon there, bro. Yeah, ideas are the basis of everything. Thinking is the basis of everything. People don't realize this, and this is one of the big problems that we have in this world. That people don't really understand philosophy, psychology, ideas, okay, the relationship between men and women. The fact that, yeah, you can have a passionate relationship, but you don't necessarily have to be engaged in swapping spit or swapping DNA or anything else. Okay, in other words, there is a passion there, but the passion is the passion of the ideas being passed back and forth. But it's a different relationship than you would have with men and men. Okay, it's always going to be a different relationship. Women and men are going to have different types of relationships than men and men are. It's just the way.
I think you've accomplished that in the last 20 minutes. I mean, is there a point to this?
Yeah, it's to understand, because everybody's running around trying to pretend that the president has some affair or something going on, when that is just silliness. Okay, there may be some type of a relationship of ideas, a relationship.
I don't think that people think that they're having an affair. I think that was John Ossoff taking a cheap shot.
Well, I think
that's what that was.
What he's doing. Well, listen, what he's doing, okay, is he is basically elaborating ideas that, you know, many people in this country would automatically assume is happening, okay? Because they're
yeah,
not
but by the way, I mean, the president's 80, 81, and she's 35. Really?
Yeah. Okay. What I'm saying is that's what I'm saying. Okay. You know, it's ideas, it's thinking, it's passion based on, seeing the world the same way, having the same understanding of objectives going forward in this world, things like that. Right. Okay, so there is a passion there. There could be a love there, but not something that is going to be, like swapping spit or something of this nature.
Okay, Al, thank you for the call. The swapping spit thing is just too early for swapping spit with anyone. And I think what Al was trying to say is they're sharing ideas. Here's the deal. The president needs loyal people. And at 35 years old, if you had a chance to work for Ronald Wilson Reagan, or maybe if you're a liberal loon, Bill Clinton, who just turned 80, or someone else. By the way, you take a look at the libs, and I don't know if it's a life filled with fun, frivolity, debauchery. 80 on Clinton looks very different than 80 on Trump. 80 on Biden looks different than 80 on Clinton. But you look at these guys and you're thinking to yourself, man, you've worn out the carpet there, Bill. So what Al is trying to talk about, and again, his use of the visuals has totally distracted us from this. The idea that Ossoff floats this off and he gets a little pushback. But the problem here is this is a guy that thinks he's ready for prime time. He got lucky the first time in Georgia. This time around, he's fighting someone that's 4, 5, 10 points behind. And so now he's going on the national shows as someone who, with all due respect, outside of Mike Baker, has been on more national shows than anyone in Idaho. That would be me. National shows are great for your ego. National shows are great for your credibility. Of course, today you can go on the Benny show, the Frenny show, and everything else, and the people think you're, better than being on Meet the Press. But you go on these shows, and it does nothing for you. Now, for Ossoff, maybe it gives him access to big money donors. People see him and go, wow, he's a good Ossoff. But when you're explaining yourself, and look, the world that we live in today, there are too many IEDs, landmines. Why in the world would you take a shot at a young 35-year-old female staffer that has done nothing wrong? And by the way, she's not a spokesperson for the White House. She's not on camera. You could argue she's not a public official, so she should be hands off Ossoff. There's a good one. Hands off Ossoff.
It's Natalie Harp printing out Donald Trump's daily dose of delusion and flattery, or Peter Navarro steering taxpayer-funded loans to Trump family investments, or Pete Hegseth deluding the president daily into deepening this quagmire in the Middle East. No one cares about their feelings.
No one cares about their feelings. By the way, this really, really resonates with the left. I'm not even a liberal loon, and I'm going, boy, this guy has some sauce. More on that in a minute. Let's get you to work the right way at 580 KIDO. Robin in for Dave with traffic. Good morning, Robin.
Good morning, Kevin. KIDO Talk Radio traffic from the Pacific Steel and Recycling Studio. It's a lot busier out of Canyon County. Eastbound freeway, definitely a little more stop and go. Karcher interchange on Karcher to the freeway is busy, and then up to north side. We've got some heavy traffic, of course, all the way to the Flying Y, but it looks like it's still flowing pretty nicely with not a lot more than just hitting the brakes around those exit on-ramps. In Caldwell, Linden, west of Chicago, a crash. Save money with Perfect Plumbing, Heating and Air. Get a tanked water heater tune-up for only $49. Avoid lukewarm water or no hot water at all. Call or schedule online at callperfectnow.com. I'm Robin Scott. Traffic now on KIDO Talk Radio.
All right, go to Ron Grant.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
Now, Ron, I'm going to apologize to you. If you want to join us next hour where we have a little bit more time, that's great. I just didn't see you on the screen, so that's not Bo's fault. That's my fault. But you're a young man and you're always busy, so I never want to squeeze you on the time, sir. So this is, again, this is me being me. You've seen me. I'm a disheveled guy, so I hate that when you're on the phone. So my apologies for that. If you want to roll now, that's great. If you want to wait till next hour, we could do it right after the news. That's up to you, sir.
No, it's not a problem, buddy. We'll talk now. It's not a problem. But thank you for that offer. You're such a generous man.
Well, we need to get to it because here comes the news. But again, my apologies, sir. That was on me totally. And obviously, you don't want to make a Kevin Miller mistake when it comes to your money and your retirement, sir.
That's right. My clients and I sleep at night, Kevin, knowing that we can't lose our principal and we can't lose any gains that we've already earned. You know, most important is a lifetime income that we can't outlive. And, of course, the traditional retirement plans, the 401ks, et cetera, just don't offer that product. You know, the brokers like to talk about the 4% rule, which is highly exposed to market volatility. Income is at risk during downturns, and you got to sell assets to generate income. My clients don't like that. And if you're married, when you've passed away, your spouse will get that lifetime income for the rest of their life. But right now it's important, Kevin, to make sure you have an income stream for the rest of your natural life that you can live on out of the risk and the fees of the Wall Street casino.
And Ron, if people want to get a hold of you, how can they do that, sir?
Educational website, safermoneyspecialist.com. But let's have a phone conversation right here in the Treasure Valley about how you can have a guaranteed income that you can't outlive with zero stock market risk, but most importantly, legacy protection for you and your family. Give me a call, 208-660-1372.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, buddy.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your Safer Money Specialist.
Boy, that was quick. Hopefully the musical sound. If not, we...
Almost 6-month war has been characterized by anything. It is, David Rode, the president's bluster and the president's threats that he just vacillates back and forth without any certainty, any strategy. There still is not a clear strategy, a clear end game, an end goal that the administration has in mind. Now the goalpost is moved to getting the Strait of Hormuz open.
Yes, and it's funny, this young lady started as a kind of a throw-in on Morning Joe with her unique Southern accent. And now all of a sudden, she's the belle of the ball. Good morning, Kevin Miller, your belle of the ball at 580 KIDO. This portion of the program brought to you by Window World Boise, windowworldboise.com. And check them out today. I'm sitting here taking a look at this, and basically the end line of this is what they're going to say is this economic thing, the economic D-Day, could actually work. And the war with the Iranians is a work in progress. But if I'm the mullahs, mullah, and I'm listening to this, and I'm going, wow, we don't have to do anything because, hey, she's just... if this is how the American people feel, then we're great. Oh, by the way, I wish I had better news for you. And this happens, hopefully, it doesn't happen to you because you're responsible. It happens, I think, unfortunately, to me sometimes. And I was talking to Sweet William, and then I was talking to John Mounts, I was talking to Bo. Sometimes and everybody's trying to look for the hook. I'm a person that lost 500 pounds. I'm a person that made a lot of money. And then I'm thinking, I'm the person that you grow up not wanting to be. And, the person that they run up their credit card debt, they do this, they make a lot of bad moves, a lot of bad calls, a lot of audibles at the line of scrimmage. And, the reason why I say this, and again, I'm using myself as an example. We're, $40 trillion in debt now? The national debt, it's to service it is 120% of our domestic budget, which I don't know how even that works. So congratulations, everybody. We're in debt. Oh, and I love how we always blame Social Security. We always blame Medicare. We always blame issues and programs that people have bought into. And the problem is that people are living too long. No, that's not the problem, that people are living too long. The problem is that Bill Clinton stole from Social Security years ago. We have the second largest age cohort that continues to live, that continues to fight, that continues to be informed, that some people bash. It's interesting that we have the millennials and others bashing the boomers, because when I was growing up as a non-boomer, the boomers were everything. They were the most influential generation when you're talking culture and everything else. Why? Because there was just so many of them. And then you have the millennials that are the largest generation, but not as opinionated, very different wiring than the boomers. And then you have the Gen Z and the Gen X that are, the sandwich generations, if you will, in between. My point being is that we blame the entitlement programs and people talk about these things. Okay, as I've said to Dave Petzo, as I'll say to you, as I'll say to Congressman Simpson next hour, the bottom line is that you start cutting foreign aid. You start cutting the condom programs for people in wherever, and then you can begin to take a look at stuff that Americans have paid into. But please don't vilify people that worked hard, did all the right things, and are entitled to their money. And then, well, the rich people don't need it. The rich people put money in too. How would you like that? Wasting money. So again, Mike Crapo has talked about this. No one listens to him. No one listens to Kevin Miller. No one listens to Dave Petzel on this. But you want to talk about possibly derailing the stock market. And I don't say that to scare anybody, because it's great when you're winning. You talk about the hit of dopamine. It's great when you're winning, when your stocks are rolling. Hey, I can retire. And, we had Ron Grant on there. Ron Grant talks about a program that he's involved in that protects you from that. And you choose, as Ron talks about, your various stages of risk. And I have some people, well, I'm going to keep going. Well, when what goes up, what goes down, and whether they're economic indicators or not, you talk about derailing something, and we have this debt, and how do we pay for it? That is the big challenge. Coming up today, Congressman Simpson will join us. We will speak with him via the phone, and we will speak with our friend Jeff Bacon of the igfunrun.com, the igfunrun.com. And when we're doing the igfunrun.com with Jeff Bacon, we've got these incredible cartoonists coming in, actually original artwork as well, specifically for this. It's the shortest race in American history. It's taking place at Payette Brewing, and it benefits the Wyakin Foundation that started here in Boise, Idaho, does amazing work. So we look forward to speaking with Jeff Bacon. And we're going to talk to Jeff about life in the Persian Gulf. You've got the Abraham Lincoln. You've got other ships that are in trouble. Is that real or fake news? More coming up with that. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO, Kevin Miller in the morning. Brought to you by our friends at Window World Boise. Let's go to Doug in Mountain Home. And I know Dylan was worried about you because we haven't heard from you in a while. Doug, thank you for joining us. Window World Boise. Let's go to Doug in Mountain Home. Hello, Doug.
Yeah, hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm okay, Doug. How are you?
Getting old. Been battling health stuff quite a bit. But I'm still here above ground. I just I've tried to call in a couple times, but I just ain't got much patience to wait. And usually I'm in bad places for cell service. Anyway, and I'm not, I don't know. What I'm trying to say is you're talking this morning about how people are cussing on the radio and stuff on the news shows, and you said you use it. I have too, and I pretty much have changed my life totally with the Lord Jesus Christ here running it. And when you read his word, Kevin, we're accountable for every idle word we said since we've been born. And it's really, I know I got some friends that every word out of their mouth is a cuss word. So anyway, think about what we say, okay? The other thing is have I still got you?
Yes, Doug.
Is these women, this Nazi regime that's running on the other side of the Democrat Party, which I think they've been Nazi all along. They call them socialists. They're just naked communists is what they are. But God talks about this in the end times a lot, all the way through the Bible, but he talks about it a lot in the end times. And women, he talks a lot about in there. I mean, you ever read in the book of Kings, First Kings, Second Kings, Jezebel. I mean, get in there and read what happened to her, what he did with her. And I see all these women on there and you can see it's Satan running this whole world, Kevin. He's running it. He's the author of confusion. He's the author of lying. He's the author of every kind of thing that is opposite of our Lord Jesus Christ, period. So, and then this thing over there, I feel so sorry for them Persian people. As far as the regime, I hope they all rot somewhere. I mean, I probably shouldn't think like that, but the Persian people, man, got to be hurting. I mean, I just heard that their economy is like 140 or way food, no nothing, Kevin. So anyway, I got other things I'd like to say, but my mind's a mess. That's what I'm talking about some of my health problems. So I listen to you every morning. I've tried to get on a couple times, but like I said, I'm usually in bad service areas. So keep up the good work, Kevin. I do like listening. I hope this president, I'm going to vote for him again. Who else are you going to vote for? The Nazis? I hope he hasn't got himself in a debacle with this. But anyway, so thanks for having me on. We'll talk to you again. Bye.
All right, Doug, we love you. Thank you very much. We appreciate Doug in Mountain Home for joining us. Thank you, Doug. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And Doug, if you're listening, we do appreciate you. And, of course, all the great work that you do again and again and again and again. Thank you very much, Doug in Mountain Home. Sorry you're not feeling well, bro. Our best to you, and you are such an important part of the family here. The Kevin Miller and the Morning Family, next week, 17 years, which is amazing here. Never take anything for granted, but we do appreciate Doug with us from really the very, very beginning. And like I said, it's just amazing. Speaking of amazing, and we really don't have, I guess we have the Idaho Business Review, and they do a very outstanding job with their community. They're really wonderful. And it's funny, I got Dylan emailing me that he's such a big Doug fan. And I said, well, Dylan, this is a family here. You should just call in right now while Doug's listening and say, Doug, we love you. Thank you. I'm a big fan. And then I get the Heisman from Dylan where he goes, I'll do that in a little bit. Oh, okay. I know you can't drop everything and help us out, Dylan, but you're the Doug guy. So, Doug, I'm sorry that Dylan, this is the Catholic Guilt Trip. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that Dylan will call in later, and I hope you continue to listen. But from my heart, you're a hardworking, honest Christian patriot. So God bless you, and thank you very much. And you are never alone with Christ in your life. You're never alone with us, and we do love you. And we don't say that enough to people, but we do love you. So Dylan has dropped the ball. One play, and I did talk to Dylan yesterday. Anyway, one company that doesn't drop the ball when it comes to your windows, your exterior, you know what I'm talking about, Window World Boise. Maybe you don't. Did you know that Window World Boise is locally owned? That is veteran owned. You can see them right on Chinden. A lot of times you get the mailers and the schmailers from these people. I don't know where they live. Are they out of town? Are they in town? Are they frequently in town? Who knows? But I'll tell you this, whether you're a big-time, highfalutin, kickball attire-wearing guy like Kevin Miller, a big baller, if you will, or you're like Dylan from the great IdahoShow.com, or like Tea Party Bob, Window World Boise treats you the same regardless. Windows, patio doors, siding, all the products. You can get a free quote. And call them now, 614-3188. That's 614-3188. Call them now, see what they have to say. They love working with you. They do a great job. Like I said, they have put the windows in our home here, and we love them. And we're saving money on our energy. And by the way, I don't know about you, but I'm sure Idaho Power, they don't have to worry about a deficit. They had a big month from everybody last month. One of the highest power bills ever. If I didn't have my windows, I'd be in bigger trouble. But they help you save the energy, that cool air in and that hot air out, and then vice versa in the winter. Dual threat, dual challenge, double the benefit. WindowWorldBoise.com, or if you're like me, here's the number, 614-3188. That's 614-3188. They help out with the military, and again, locally and veteran-owned, and right here in the Treasure Valley. And they've got the Good Housekeeping Seal of Approval, which is, well, I don't know how many people have that. When you want a good house, you got to have the housekeeping, right? So the top stories of the day, congratulations, we're $40 trillion in the hole. Of course, we're blaming Donald Trump, although he has cut waste, fraud, and abuse. He's cut all these things, and you're still going to blame him? Come on, man. Just wild. And then you have John Ossoff going after the young woman, Natalie Harp. Yes, 35 is young. I know Sweet William knows that 35 is young. Bo's going, no, 35 is, that's old, Kev. That's old. Anyway, the bottom line here is that it's pile-on time. And when you have a guy that is winning, now you have the payback. These guys want to see Donald Trump hauled away in hauled away in chains, hauled away everything, and that's unfortunately where it's going. And really, win, lose, or draw, that's not the Idaho way. One of the great things about being here in Idaho is it teaches you how to be an adult. It teaches you how to be bigger than the competition. You know, people don't talk smack, and they're not as, combative as they are in other places. At least I've found. But again, we're not in the national political scene. So we're $40 trillion in debt. By the way, I'm pretty proud of the last couple of articles I put on, and I know it's tough to read my work sometimes, like all the time, at KIDOTalkRadio.com. But we've got perhaps some more nuclear waste coming to Idaho. Well, would that be exciting? Yes, that broke a few weeks ago. We finally picked it up. Thank you, Sweet William, for pointing that one out. Nuclear waste. We're one of 5 states, a finalist for the big enchilada, more nuclear waste, but it's not really nuclear waste. It's nuclear recyclables. We'll talk a little bit about that. And again, as we get ready for football season, and everybody's a Bronco until they're not, which Idaho brand would you like to see on the Boise State jersey? Something to think about. More calls with you next. Again, Kevin Miller on 580 KIDO, where it's talking about the nuclear waste. And many of you know or might know that there was a governor here named Phil Batt, who we lost him a few years ago. We lost Cecil Andrus, one Batt, a Republican, the other Cecil Andrus, a Democrat, both trendsetters, but they both agreed that we should not have the big-time nuclear waste here. They came up with an agreement with the federal government in 1995. And both Mr. Batt and Mr. Andrus, years before they died, and again, shame on me for not reaching out to both of them, they both came up with a joint statement saying that the nuclear agreement, keeping the feds and their nuclear waste out of Idaho, was in danger of going away. Now, what we're seeing now is the federal government, and nuclear is the big thing. We have INL, 58, 55, 59 reactors since 1949. The INL is the world leader. We'll probably talk about this with Congressman Simpson coming up next hour. But the idea of Idaho getting more nuclear waste, and people say, well, it's not really waste. We can recycle it. We can do this. We can do that. And yes, nuclear power is great, but you just have to have, wait for it, everybody, one giant Greg Ferreira, and then you've got a problem. a major problem. Fukushima, 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, all these issues that could be brought to light. Now, I didn't know that there's some type of Idaho nuclear watchdog organization that wants to make sure that we keep the nuclear waste out, but I think it's Utah, Idaho, and a few others. They're clamoring for this. Personally, I don't know much about Utah, but nobody can beat INL in the world, in the country. We have to be the front runner. Obviously, our governor, our lieutenant governor, they're behind this. They're very pro-industry. The challenge here is, do we take a look at the devastation that could happen and really the consequences? And then we've got the Snake River aquifer. So those are a lot of issues. Now, for me, I love the promise when government says they're going to do something. Hey, we're going to lower the price of energy. Well, tell me, what has caused us the alarming rise in our utilities? Well, the data centers that the liberals, loons, have declared war on, even though they've promised that they're going to use their own power, the massive amount of people coming into Idaho, and, the idea that we haven't invested in our electrical infrastructure. Now, again, Idaho Power, I hear that's one of the best places to work in America. But, is it up to Idaho Power? Is it up to Kevin Miller? Is it up to Mike Simpson? Is it up to Doug in Mountain Home to say, well, we have all this strain on our grid. What are we going to do? We have all these challenges on our grid. What are we going to do? So please take a look at that story. We would love to get your thoughts on more nuclear waste coming to Idaho. Do we want to be the number one receptacle for nuclear waste, not only in America, but perhaps the world? Hi, everybody. Yes, there we have ARCO glowing at night, just like the old days. 580 KIDO traffic. Let's get you to work.
2 weeks, 3 weeks, it's in shock. But you come back in 2 or 3 weeks. This has all been redone. It's all been topsoiled. In other words, we put topsoil, brand new earth on top. Very, lot of good ingredients in that earth for grass. If you're grass, you're very happy. And this grass will look so beautiful. If you remember, it had big sunken areas in here, and it was pretty bad. It was in bad shape. But this grass was the highest quality. It was given free of charge by Scott's Miracle Grow. Scott's. And Scott's is a great company. They actually contributed to my campaign. I must be honest. You'll figure that one out. And they said to me, sir, we'd like to replace the grass at the White House with the highest quality grass and do a real job. So Scott's, I want to thank Scott's Miracle Grow. It's I think the biggest grass company in the world, somebody said, but it's very...
we want to thank Scott's Miracle Grow. Appreciate that. Scott's Miracle Grow. Amazing. Good morning. Kevin Miller here, 580 KIDO. We have the President of the United States doing what the President of the United States does. And people are saying how crazy, how critical of a mistake this is for the president to be talking about Scott's Miracle Grow when we have the war, when we have everything else. Apparently, he gave a tour of the new White House grounds. He's in litigation, could be going to the Supreme Court, could be doing all sorts of things, which is pretty wild considering the world that we live in. And we've been talking a little bit about personal relationships where we have, Natalie Harp could be your daughter, could be your mom, could be your granddaughter getting the treatment by the media. Well, people are unnerved by this. Well, isn't that uncomfortably sexist to say? Wouldn't that, isn't that because who's to say that somebody who is working very hard, doing their own thing, and working for the President of the United States, since when did that become a crime? And, you have other people that are saying things like, it's a wrap for America unless every Trump administration official is locked up within 5 years. That's not very responsible. That's the craziness of it, if you will. Other things going on as we take a look at, just this thing that I'm fascinated about is the Democratic Socialists of America. I don't know if they're ever going to come here, but they are getting more and more powerful.
Right, so where are these wins happening? Is there a specific area, or what are you seeing with the numbers?
Yeah, okay, you might just say, oh, this is just a phenomenon in the Northeast. This is part of the Acela corridor. This is just an urban phenomenon. No, not really. I mean, take a look here. Where DSA candidates won primaries for Congress, they're all Democrats. Yeah, you got 3 in New York, but you got 2 in Michigan. You got 1 in Colorado. You got 1 in Florida last night running for the Senate, and you got 1 in Pennsylvania. So this is not just a Northeast phenomenon in terms of these DSA candidates who are winning primaries. Yes, they are primarily in urban areas, but they are happening across the map, from the Northeast to the Midwest to the Mountain West, and then last night down in the South in Florida. So this is happening across the political map. We are seeing these DSA candidates winning in Democratic primaries. As I said, they are becoming a larger part of the Democratic primary, not just in the polling data, but actual people casting their ballots, casting their votes for these DSA candidates.
Give us some idea what the percentages are here of.
Maybe we'll have a Democratic Socialist run for mayor in Boise, and could derail the social media influencer that is the current Boise mayor. Hey, by the way, Kevin Miller here reminding you, if buying a newer or better car is on your to-do list, Team Mazda in the Pre-Owned Superstore has a deal that's pretty easy to remember. Say it with me. 5. Or, as we said yesterday in the military, fife. They call it Five It. Here's how it works. Bring just $5 down and Team can help you drive home in a new Mazda or better pre-owned vehicle. Then there's the other 5, which means you can delay your first payments for 5 months. Hey, man, give me 5. How about another 5? So $5 down and no payments for 5 months. That's why they call it Five It. It's a great option if you need a vehicle now but don't want to drain your bank account coming up with a big, massive, huge down payment. And if you're looking for an affordable used car, look for the pink tags at Team's Pre-Owned Superstore. Those are specifically, and not only specifically, but specifically discounted to make sure that they sell. In other words, they're priced to sell, including plenty of reliable choices under $20,000. Plus. Bring in your old vehicle because Team will give you up to 130% of book value with a minimum $2,000 trade allowances, regardless of the condition. So don't put off getting a better vehicle. Five It, $5 down, 5 months before your first payment. Where? Only at Team Mazda and the Pre-Owned Superstore on the Boulevard. Get pre-approved right now at GoTeamCredit.com. That is GoTeamCredit.com. Please tell them, our great friends at Team, that Kevin Miller sent you. Earlier we were talking about we're 40 trillion in the hole. We're going to start cutting. We're not going to cut because it's the midterms. We're not going to cut because it's the presidential year. That's the problem. We're not cutting. Not cutting at all when we're thinking about this. Earlier, we were talking about schools and the ROI of schools. We have that for you on our website, KIDOTalkRadio.com. But who has the best school district in the state? Well, that would be the West Ada School District. Once again, topping the state's largest school districts in the Idaho Standards Achievement Testing, ISAT, with over 69% proficiency in English. Well, 69 is better than 49. And more than 57% in math. Well, a little over half the people can do math. Isn't that wonderful? The district outperformed other districts. Boise, only a little over 50% can speak English or have English language proficiency at 53%. And Boise spends a ton of money. Like a Boise teacher, they start out $20,000 more than a West Ada teacher. Nampa, come on, Nampa, 43%. Caldwell, 30%. And I'm not bagging on Nampa and Caldwell. If you ask me where I'd prefer to live, it'd be Nampa and Caldwell. I love the folks, but somehow you got to get those test scores up. While there has been a slight improvement in proficiency levels this year, Idaho students are still lagging behind their peers from over a decade ago in both English language arts and math. and what is it, $2-3 billion that goes into education. We have an amazing homeschool community. We have an amazing charter school community. We have an amazing Catholic school community, Christian school community, conservative school community. And then we have the public schools. And I'm not bagging on the public schools. But at 580-5436-580-KIDO, please tell me, this is why we have a Department of Education to deal with these things. And it's great that the Department of Education is trying to help Boise State athletics. And Boise State athletics celebrating 40 years of the blue. That's great. That's wonderful. That's exciting. But on the other hand, dear friend, the kids and the taxpayers deserve better. And Tom Luna, good old Tom. I don't even know if Tom listens. I know Tom likes to come on, but Tom Luna, he brought in Common Core, and everybody had a problem with Common Core, and people yelled at Tom, and the Wall Street Journal covered Tom because people were vandalizing his vehicle. And then we had Sherry Ibarra, and Sherry came in, and she was a real-life teacher, a real-life principal in Mountain Home. And then somebody within the Republican Party decided that Sherry Ibarra had to go, and she was primaried. And now you have Debbie Critchfield, a very nice lady who is on the state board, but what has the Department of Education done? Now, again, I could play the game and get these people on, and we could talk, and we could all be friends, but would we get anywhere? Would we have an honest conversation? What does the State Department of Education do when we have such low test scores? And you have people, good people, that will work 5 jobs so their kids will go to schools outside the public schools. And it's a shame because everybody, and I quote this in my article, talking about what Lou Dobbs said. Lou Dobbs worked in the potato fields with the migrant workers and went all the way to Harvard, all the way to Midtown Manhattan, all the way to Fox Business, hedge funds, making money. Where here's the deal with Lou Dobbs. Dude, Lou Dobbs made so much money at the end, actually would take a helicopter into work every day. Yeah. Now, that's a really long way away from the potato Pocatello. And he always talked about this. It's one quote that Lou Dobbs always stuck with me. Public education is the great equalizer or liberator. And obviously we spend money on this. We have kids. I'm sure this kid now has probably got a wife and kid or whatever. Years ago, Nampa High School, going to Harvard. It does happen. But we can't just sit there and go, well, there's not much we can do. We don't have, on one hand, we say, the state will say it's a local issue. The local people will say it's a state issue. Let's just get rid of the bait and switch and actually work for kids. Shouldn't we do that? Other local news that will have you yapping. Nampa City Council approved a budget of just under $300 million, a 6-hour-long meeting. Darrell Brunner, the mayor, casting tie-breaking votes that led to cuts in public transportation services. The council voted to restore funding to keep Valley Regional Transit Route 42 running, but on-demand service and fixed Route 40 are set to end. The budget decreased by $16.6 million from the current year, preserving the Nampa Public Library's full funding and adding funding for cost of living adjustments and IT services. Yeah, that Nampa Public Library, that has always been one of those polarizing issues for and against, which is remarkable. So they love the library in Nampa. The decision to cut public transportation funding sparked debate among council members and residents, with concerns raised about the impact on seniors and disabled riders. The council also approved a $5 million property tax levy override for the Nampa Police Department and engaged in a tense exchange over the department's use of automatic plate readers, license plate readers. So if we truly are a libertarian state, if we truly are a state that values privacy, how did we allow these flocks to come in, right? How did we allow the flocks to come in? And the big overall question is, do you want to be flocked or not? Flock me, flock you, flockity, flock, flock, flock. Flock, that's the word, flock cameras. You think they could have come up with a better name than the flocks? Anyway, by the way, congratulations to those in Caldwell. The Caldwell School District returned to school. Kids were greeted by music, posters, and chalk drawings on the first day. Woo! Hey, they have a new superintendent. I hope he's better than the last one. Welcome students and emphasize collaboration with the community for student safety. Seniors reflected on their first day of high school, while freshman students expressed excitement and nerves about starting high school. There we have it. So, again, school starting. And once again, one more talk about Caldwell. Again, we have the Caldwell Night Rodeo going on. Great preview of that on our website, KIDOTalkRadio.com. But Caldwell police are boosting school zone traffic enforcement as students return to school. We shouldn't lose anyone due to excessive, irresponsible speeding and driving in school zones. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. One more thing that we have to take a look at here is the idea of more nuclear waste. And again, we're going to talk to Mike Simpson. He knows all about this stuff coming up next hour. And then our friend Jeff Bacon of what's going on in the Persian Gulf. And you with me, Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. Love that Lars Larson. Love all the great talent on our program. And, I'm going to vow to make sure we get the boys on. I know that's tough. Clay's a big highfalutin guy. We're going to try to get the boys on coming up. And we'll make another run at Sean. Sean has offered actually to come on this program. He and Victor Miller are buddies. And I tell you, I didn't follow up on it, so that's my bad. We have Lars on. Maybe Glenn is just an enigma, but we'll get them on. But more importantly, we love getting you on. Let's go to Concern, who joins us now at 580-KIDO. Good morning, Concern.
Good morning, Kevin. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of redeem what I said yesterday. That you had a caller come in, I think from Idaho City, who was saying that I called everybody that was a Democrat and evil, and I didn't. If you go back and listen to it, I said that doesn't make everybody that way. I said, but the party itself is heading in that direction of evil. When they're killing infants and they want to cut off parts of humans and make them different, transgenders and just everything they do is just anti, and when I say evil, evil is anything that's against God. I mean, I don't know what people's definition of evil is, but, if you support that, and they do, the whole entire party, every time they vote, it's in lockstep. It's like you don't see any Democrats out there going, I don't agree with this, or I don't agree with this. No, they are just dead set on following that direction. And, if you're following somebody that's doing evil things, that makes you part of it. If I wanted to join the Ku Klux Klan, I'm sure there was hardworking people and good-natured people, except they belong to the Ku Klux Klan. It's like, I ain't going to follow them. I'm not going to support them. And, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about a party that is out to ruin this country. No borders, mutilation of children, mutilation of infants, everything they do. But right, it doesn't, and I made that clear, it doesn't make everybody evil that's a Democrat, but the party itself is heading that direction. And just want to make that clear. If you gentlemen apparently didn't hear that part of it. But also, I also wanted to talk about the Meta, the storage places for, memory. Has anybody ever thought about, they have all kinds of people working in them and things, and everybody thought about security? What happens if there's a plot against all the, storage places and someone blows them up and stuff? What are we going to lose? Our bank accounts, whatnot. If we keep on tying everything into the electronics and supporting that, that's something that needs to be thought about, security for them deals. I mean, here they're sitting in Idaho, and who knows what kind of plot they get. There's a lot of foreign people that are involved in that data centers, and we don't care about the borders. We don't vet anybody. All these things. It's something to consider. But, that's something I thought. And Larry Show, Kevin, I just wanted to make that clear what I was saying. The party itself is heading in the wrong direction. If you support it, you might want to think about what they're supporting. So I wish I could see some Democrats, half and half. At least there's a few Republicans that don't always agree with Trump. That's a good thing sometimes. But when when you see a whole entire party in lockstep of like, no, the Save Act, we're just simply not going to do it. All these things are just ridiculous. So,
sure.
But
concern, God bless. Take care.
God bless. Bye.
And we go to Better Late Than Never Dylan at 580 KIDO.
Oh, Kevin, what a show. Good morning. I hope I don't flock camera this up. That was quite the deal this morning. My bags have been packed for a long time for those little guilt trips, and you got me. I miss Doug. It was really great to hear him this morning, and I love his description of how being connected to God changes your life. And just two quick reminders, Doug, if you ever needed anything, buddy, by the way, man, I know you would never ask because you're a man, but I'd be there for you. We have so much to look at in the Word of God when it's sometimes as simple as remind yourself of what the 10 Commandments are and be cautious of the 7 deadly sins. If we could all just be aware of those 17 things, life would be amazing for most across the world. I got a cyber update for you. So I run an e-com business. I have an internet business. Well, for the first time, I have had my payment system attacked. And what this is me doing is reminding everybody to really, take 45 minutes a month or something to review your statements, because I am just blown away at the new technological age of where now that they're using AI, they can attack payment systems using other people's credit card numbers. And I don't believe that they actually have to have the whole credit card information to become successful. So your merchants out there, like me, have what are called filters or payment filters on their account. And if they don't have them set up to high security, these hackers can program these bots, if you will, to utilize just random credit card numbers with almost no other information and find websites that have low security. And in the last 2 days, I've had 30,000 transactions attempted through my website, and it's not a human there having to do anything. It's just he's got some AI-supported bot that's attacking my website. And what they do is they test different combinations of credit card numbers and zip codes until they get a hit. And once they find the approval, they have many options with that. One is to sell it, like this is a validated good card, or all of a sudden a month later, you'll find that transaction come through. And if you're not paying attention, some of them will run very light transactions month over month, like $25, and people don't pick up on $25. And you would think that the name's got to match, the address has got to match, and all the CVV code's got to match, and it doesn't. And if the filters are set low, the names don't have to match. All those systems are doing are verifying generally the first number in the address and the zip code. They don't verify the street spelling or the name. So
Beacon Plumbing, beaconplumbing.com. Stop freaking, call Beacon today. Congressman Mike Simpson joins us now. Congressman, always a pleasure to have you on, sir. Good morning.
Yeah, good to be with you, Kevin.
We're going to throw it to you first because we try to do our best to throw you off, which is impossible. So what issue would you like to talk about, sir?
Anything that you'd like to talk about, what's going on in Washington, how we're trying to get our appropriation bills, make sure we don't have a government shutdown in October. But the House and the Senate have been in Congress have been in session at different times, and so we've passed a continuing resolution to make sure the government stays open, because the last thing you want is a government shutdown at any time, but particularly before election. So we passed one. The Senate passed one that's different than ours. So now we've got to get back and conference those and make sure that we don't have a government shutdown. But there's a lot of good things that have been going on that we've got to get done. I think we don't have long to do them before the election. We're only in for like 4 weeks before we're out for the election time. But there's a lot of important legislation. I still think we've got to pass the legislation protecting women in Girls Sports Act and the Born Again Survivors Act, the Kids Act, the Labor, Health, and Human Services Appropriation Act. There's still a lot of things to do that need to get done, and that doesn't even include some of the major things that I think are important, like the SAVE Act. Somehow we've got to get the SAVE Act done. If we don't have the American public that believes our elections are honest and secure, then you don't have any confidence in the government at all. To me, that's the most important thing, is making sure that American people believe the elections are secure.
Our great friend Congressman Simpson joining us. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Always on message. So let's continue on with this, sir. A lot of people aren't talking about, except the politicos in Washington, the idea of another government shutdown. You've got your opponents on the other side, the loons, the libs, basically probably salivating at the possibility of a government shutdown, not because it aids the country, it hurts the country, but will help them in the midterms.
Yeah, that was, I was thinking several months ago that Schumer and Jeffries really wanted a government shutdown in October, because the last one that was the Schumer shutdown, I can remember Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the Democrats in the House, would stand up at a press conference and say, "This can't be our fault. How can it be our fault? The Republicans control the House, control the Senate, and the White House. So how could it be our fault?" Well, then he didn't go on to say, but you have to have Democratic support in the Senate to get anything done. You have to have 60 votes. So, and that's where it all got held up. And I thought that they would want a government shutdown because they think that would be good for them in the election. I think they've kind of changed their mind. I think they've realized that a government shutdown is never good policy and never good politics, even though they'd use it if they could. But so I think we can get a continuing resolution to fund the government till early December to make sure that there's not a government shutdown in October. That, I think, would be devastating for politics in general, politicians in general. So I think we're going to be okay in that respect. We'll get one done when we get back, but I'm hopeful that there won't be a government shutdown.
Congressman Mike Simpson joining us here at 580 KIDO. Obviously, Congressman Simpson, you're a guy that gets things done behind the scenes mostly. That's why we appreciate you joining us here. What do you make of the latest deficit, the $40 trillion? Obviously, something needs to be done. You're working on it. You're at the ground level. Is there any movement to try to solve this problem?
I think there's more and more movement on it, but some people think you just need to quit spending money. That doesn't solve the problem. What you've got is entitlement programs, and if you don't reform those entitlement programs, which are about 75% of our total spending, you got to reform those programs. Not to take Social Security away from anybody that's getting it or anybody that's getting ready to retire in the next 10 years. But you got to change it for the future. And that's something that I think more and more people are starting to work on. There's a lot of ideas out there, but we haven't got serious about it yet. I'm hopeful that we will, because Social Security itself is going to go bankrupt pretty soon if we, within like 5 or 6 years, 7 years, if we don't do something about it. So that's the main focus. You could actually eliminate everything that we do in the Appropriations Committee, which is what you typically think of as government, whether it's the Defense Department, whether it's the Interior Department, the Justice Department, or anything, You could eliminate all those things. You'd still have a budget deficit. That's how bad the numbers are with the entitlement programs. But we've got to make some changes, and it's going to take some tough votes. But it's something I've been talking about for the last 15 years because we've seen this coming for a long time. But it's always easier to put it off to the next Congress and let them deal with it, Well, it's come time where we've got to deal with it.
And speaking of dealing with problems, I'm going to try to get both in here. Obviously, you're getting a lot of attention for your social media. We kidded about that the last time. We wrote about it. Michael Deeds wrote about it. You're getting a lot of buzz, but how do you mold being a serious lawmaker like you are with getting the amount of followers that you're getting, does that really help expand the message and reach audiences that you wouldn't reach otherwise?
Yeah, it does. Younger generation watches these a lot, but you'd be amazed how many older people have come up to talk to me about an issue or something like that, and they'll say, oh, by the way, I love your social media and stuff. I get stopped in airports and everybody, you're the guy that's doing all the social media stuff. And it is, but I think what's important is most of the time you see politicians on TV doing interviews and stuff, and it's all pretty serious and stuff. But we're just normal people. And this, I think, is trying to bring out the normal side of us and trying to show that, hey, we're your next door neighbor that you elected to Congress, and stuff, and we're still normal.
Yeah. You have to have a lot of confidence in yourself when you do this, and you should be commended for that. I know a lot of people, when you put yourself out there, obviously you get the shots. So, again, I've held off on this one, but I can't any longer. INL, the nuclear agreement, everything else. This is all things Mike Simpson right here. So how would you like to address the idea of more nuclear material coming to Idaho, sir?
Well, what the administration is doing is put out and ask for states to put in proposals to become the Nuclear Innovation Center and stuff. And that means nuclear from the very beginning to the very end of the cycle. And the place that's probably most prepared to do something like that is Idaho. But it takes the people of Idaho to support it. It takes the INL, obviously, as the lead nuclear lab in the country. I think they've got. There were five locations that the DOE selected. Idaho was one of those five. So is the state of Utah. I will tell you, the state of Utah is actively going after this. They're like all in, and so the other three places. But Idaho needs to be a part of that because we are the lead nuclear lab in the country. And I will tell you, if you go out to the Idaho National Lab today, what's happening out there is stunning. With the advanced design reactors, the small modular reactors, the micro reactors. I mean, they've had 4 reactors go critical. First time in like 50 years we've had a criticality out there, which is a good thing. I mean, you've taken it to a certain level. So I think the growth at the INL is going to be phenomenal over the next few years. But that doesn't mean we're going to be a dumping ground for waste, as some people have tried to say in some letters to the editor and stuff. That's not the point of this, and that's not what this is intended to do. But the other thing you got to remember, we have all the Navy nuclear storage or Navy nuclear fuel from the beginning of the Navy nuclear program stored at the INL. It was supposed to go to a permanent repository called Yucca Mountain that we built and never could get open. So that's something we still need to keep working on as a permanent repository. And we'll keep doing this. This is temporary stuff that they're working on now, but moving us forward. Because if you're going to have an economy that's growing, you've got to have energy. And the only thing that can produce the amount of energy that's going to be necessary for our economy in the future is nuclear energy.
Well, and again, Congressman Simpson joining us here at 580 KIDO. Obviously, that is such a touchy subject when you go back to the history of Idaho and the federal government and nuclear material.
Yeah, it is. It's a very touchy subject. And but, Idaho and the federal government, since they came up with the BAD agreement, and really you have to give Cecil Anders some credit here. He was the one that really brought the DOE kind of into the negotiation and said, listen, guys, you guys got to sit down and we've got to decide what we're going to do with cleaning up the site and stuff. So he was instrumental in this. Then Bat became governor, and they created the governor's agreement. And that was some tough going for a while. I know when I first went back to Washington, D.C., within DOE, the department back there, you would have people when they would be looking at a program or where they wanted to spend some resources, I would hear in the background some of these people saying, well, you just can't deal with Idaho, because we were pretty tough. We were the first state to get a governor's agreement and stuff, or a state agreement with the DOE. Now almost all states have one. But I think they've come to realize Idaho knows what they're talking about. Yes, we want to protect our environment, and we will protect our environment, but we can do the things that we've been doing for 75 years after the site. It is an amazing place to go. If you want to get wowed sometime, just go visit the site.
And Congressman Simpson, for those of us that weren't here or weren't alive when you had Governor Batt and Governor Andrus all working together on this, again, and this is a huge compliment. You know them, you've worked with them, you were around then, working in state politics and working for Idaho. Can you give us some perspective on their legacy? And again, you're our gateway to their contributions, sir.
Well, it was, this all started it started when they brought the nuclear navy to the INL years and years ago in the 1950s. But when Governor Andrus was governor the first time, before he became Secretary of Interior, he was the governor, and it was the Atomic Energy Commission that ran the site. And he called Dixie Lee Ray, that was the chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission, and said, "Hey, when are you going to clean up this site? We got all this buried waste, et cetera, et cetera." And she told him, "Don't worry, we've got a plan to do it." And then he left and became Secretary of Interior for 4 years. Came back 2 years after that, he became governor, and nothing had been done. And he called her again and said, "What's your plan?" And they didn't really have a plan on what they were going to do. And they've cleaned up some sites, but they cleaned up the site in Denver, Colorado, and I talked to my Colorado colleagues, and they say, "Yeah, we cleaned up that site out on Rocky Flats," and I said, "You didn't clean it up. What you did is package it up and send it to Idaho," and that's what they did. And now we've characterized it all. We've sent it all down to the website, and that was because of the pressure that Andrus and then Batt, after he became governor, put on the DOE and kept putting on the DOE, and that there were certain consequences. There was deadlines. They had to have certain things done by certain years and stuff, and they've pretty much met the deadlines. Some of them they haven't, but for a reason, if they can explain it and stuff, not that they're not working on it and stuff. We just wanted them to keep cleaning it up, and actually the site and the waste that they had out there, the true material, true waste, and that kind of stuff, has been cleaned up tremendously. And I mean, it's amazing what they've done, both on the cleanup side and on the research side. We have two contracts, one on the cleanup side, one on the that does the research and the laboratory part of it.
Congressman Simpson, do we have you for one more segment? Hate to put you on the spot, but again, I don't want to abuse my time.
Sure, we can do that.
Thank you, sir. More coming up with Congressman Mike Simpson next. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. I don't know if I'm saying I'm creeping or scrolling on your social media, but for those of us that haven't been, that should be, can you tell us about the Potato Museum in Blackfoot?
Hey, the Potato Museum was an old railroad station there, and it's a beautiful old building. And when Union Pacific was trying to get rid of some of these buildings, some of these old railroad stations, the upkeep on them and stuff, this one was built with lava rock and stuff. Beautiful old building along the rails in Blackfoot, and they sold it to the city of Blackfoot for $1. And the city took over, and the Chamber of Commerce now works out of there, and it also became the Potato Museum. You can get all things potatoes, and we have free taters for out-of-staters. So it's a great place to stop by.
No, it's, again, that's unique to Idaho. So warm, so welcoming. Congressman Simpson, obviously you're very concerned about what's going on in the Middle East. We haven't had you on in a while, and I don't think we talked about the war with Iran the last time. Your thoughts?
It is concerning, obviously. We need to make sure that we get out of this what we went into, and that is that our goal at first was no, Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. And I will tell you, this is not just Trump saying this. Every president since, I think, Ronald Reagan has declared that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, both Republican and Democrat. Iran was getting close to having one. They were enriching uranium up to 60%. There's no reason you need to go above 20% for nuclear power. It's like 14 or 15% that you enrich to make nuclear power. When you get up to 60%, the only reason that you need that is to make a weapon. And so they were not that far away from doing it, from creating a nuclear weapon. And how would you like to deal with that country after they had a nuclear weapon? It would really be dangerous then. So Trump decided we've got to stop him, and that's what he went into. And then other things have come up during this, the Straits of Hormuz and that type of thing. But I think the administration has to keep the pressure on, has to keep the economic pressure on, and has to make sure that Iran understands that they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. And, you know, most of the Middle Eastern countries, whether it's Kuwait or the UAE or Jordan or the others, are kind of, and the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, most of those are on our side on this. They don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon either. They know that would be devastating to them, because then they would kind of do what they're trying to do, and that's reestablish the old Persian Empire. So I think certainly nobody likes the war. I don't like dropping bombs, and I don't like the conflict, but I think we've got to finish this for sure.
Well, how do you respond to many of the Democrats saying that this was, quote, Trump's war of choice, sir?
Well, you know, war of choice. Kind of define to me what a war of choice is. Yes, he could have said, okay, we're not going to do this, and we're just going to let it go on. We're going to let Iran get closer and closer to a nuclear weapon. And then what do you do once they've got a nuclear weapon? We found out what you do with North Korea. Now North Korea has hundreds of nuclear weapons, and they're a danger to the world. We wanted to stop Iran from becoming a nuclear power and having nuclear weapons. When they tell you that they just wanted nuclear power to be able to produce power for their people, we offered to give them the fuel for a nuclear reactor to produce power, and they rejected it. Said no, we couldn't do that. We were going to give them the fuel and then take the fuel back so that it couldn't go into enrichment and stuff. So they're kind of duplicitous in this. And the problem with Iran is they never keep the word on anything they sign. That is a long-term problem. And so the president's trying to make sure that this is a solid deal that we end up with, and that Iran realizes that they're not going to be the bullies in the Middle East.
No, and again, though, you have, not to bag on the young people, but you have a lot of prevalent thought amongst young people, young socialists, young Democrats, that ignorantly, in my opinion, say that, oh, the Iranians were fine. You have our old friend Tucker Carlson saying, oh, there wasn't a nuclear threat. And obviously, you go back to what happened in the 70s, what happened throughout the last 47, 48 years, sir, and they are a threat.
Yeah. Absolutely, they're a threat. I think they're the biggest threat in the world. I think Iran, with a nuclear weapon, is a much bigger threat than China or Russia or North Korea. And they had to be stopped. I understand Tucker Carlson doesn't like any of this stuff, and that's okay. He can do whatever he wants to do. But they were a nuclear threat, and that's why the other countries in the Middle East realize it. I have no doubt in my mind that if Iran had a nuclear weapon, that they would use one. And they would wipe all, I mean, this is religion for them. They would wipe Israel off the face of the earth. And we just can't let that happen. But, you know, it's interesting when you talk about all these young socialists that are getting elected or getting nominated on the Democratic side and what their goal is. You know, I asked myself, okay, if these guys had to leave America, would they go to North Korea or South Korea? I mean, they hate capitalism and say how bad capitalism is. And you know that capitalism has created the greatest economy in the world and the greatest nation in the world. Are there things in capitalism that need to be regulated? Sure there are. And we try to do that. But would they go to North Korea to live or South Korea? Or if it was after World War II, would they go to East Berlin or West Berlin? That's the difference between capitalism and socialism. And these guys are promoting this kind of stuff, and it just drives me crazy. The other thing that's kind of driving me crazy is when I hear all these Democrats talking about the one big beautiful bill, it was just tax cuts for billionaires and all that kind of stuff. Do you know that 70% of the tax cut recipients make under $100,000 a year? 70% of them, averaging $1,815 a year. The no taxes on tips, the no taxes on overtime, the senior deduction, the enhanced child tax credits, those were for normal people. normal working people. They weren't for the billionaire class or anything like that. And I think the best part of the Trump tax cuts, I'll tell you what they were, in my opinion, was Trump accounts. That is where you can put $1,000. The government will match up to $1,000 you put in for a new child that's born, and you can keep doing that over the years. And by the time that child, if you do that, by the time that child gets to be in college, they'll have like 300. I can't remember the exact number. It's like $380,000 in account. We're going to build. We're going to teach capitalism to young people being born. They'll learn the power of compound interest and savings and that kind of stuff. I think it's exciting what's happening with that and what we're seeing the results of that. But it gets misrepresented by a lot of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle, as you can imagine.
Yeah, it does. And again, you have the media that only gets one side of the story. Congressman Mike Simpson with us. The final question here at 580 KIDO, and I don't even have to serve it up. Immigration.
Immigration is, I think the worst thing that the Biden administration did is he just opened the border and let the estimate is 10 to 20 million people come into this country that we don't know who they are. They're undocumented. We don't even know a lot of the people that came in that were the gotaways and stuff and how many there were there and what their intentions were. That was the worst thing that the Biden administration did. And I think that Trump is getting criticized because ICE is trying to deal with the problem left to him by the Biden administration. And yeah, they're having some tough times with ICE, and you hate seeing anybody get shot or anything like that. But we've got to get these people out of the country. Look at the one that just died there, the lady that just got stabbed in Virginia, in close to where I live when I'm out in Washington. That got stabbed by an illegal from El Salvador. And people will say, some of my opponents will say, oh, that's just such a small percentage of all the illegals that came in that are doing this. You know what? That's one too many. That person will still be alive if this guy had not been allowed and released into this country. That woman would be. And so we need to, I think Trump's doing the right thing. It's not pretty, but it's something that's got to get done, because if you're not a country that can defend your borders, then you don't have a country, frankly.
And how do we balance that with the workforce? Obviously, you've been at the forefront of trying to find a solution for years, sir.
There are a lot of people working in this country that have been here for 20 years or so, and they're good people, and yeah, they came illegally. And so how do we deal that? It almost seems contradictory. If you were to deport everybody that's here and came here illegally, I don't know how much you're willing to pay for a gallon of milk or some apples or whatever. I mean, we need these people in our workforce. So what we've done, and we introduced a bill a couple of weeks ago, is to expand the H-2A program. That's where you can apply for foreign workers. But first you have to try to sell those jobs to Americans. And if Americans won't take them, then you can get a foreigner to come in under an H-2A visa program and work. Unfortunately, in the past, that has only been for seasonal work. The bill we introduced would make it for year-round work, so that, there's no milking season. That's year-round. So H-2A hasn't helped the dairy industry. The expanded use of it for year-round work would help dairy industry, the cattle industry, sheep, that kind of thing. That's a year-round job. So it's a really good step in the right direction, and I think it's the right thing to do. People that are here illegally, you need to bring them out from under the woodwork and do a background check, make sure they're not don't have a criminal background, and pay a fine for coming illegally. So those are some things that we need to still work on. But we just introduced this bill for expanded H-2A program because it's necessary. Some people will say that if American farmers, example, would pay these people a decent wage, Americans would take those jobs. These are pretty good paying jobs. And when I say Americans won't take the jobs, and other people will criticize me for that, saying that, but you know what? A couple of years ago, there were 4,000 openings in the dairy industry across the country, and to get visas, they had to try to get American workers for these jobs. And you know how many Americans took those 4,000 jobs? 4.
How many?
Out of 4,000. So these are not jobs that Americans want. And actually, they're pretty good paying jobs, but they're hard work, damn it. And we need to make sure that these guys, we recognize the work they do because we need them. And this does not provide amnesty for anybody. That's another criticism that will come along. But it's not amnesty by any stretch of the imagination.
Congressman Simpson, really appreciate you coming in and talking over the phone. Apologize for not being in studio, but that was my choice, not yours, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
You bet, Kevin. It's always good to talk to you.
Our great friend, Congressman Simpson, Kevin Mill in the morning, 580-KIDO. We'll get your reaction next. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Apply to be a member of the Appy App Club. We're very discerning on that. You apply, you're accepted. We will actually send you that podcast of the show. Phone number's here, 580-5436-580-KIDO, and you can listen to Congressman Simpson. By the way, I forgot about that. We had a little issue with the podcast. We'll try to send that out today. Hopefully, we can get that taken care of. By the way, it's interesting when we think about this. We're talking about the Trump administration quite a bit, but what else is going on with prominent Republicans? Who is the most prominent Republican outside the Trump orbit?
Would love to know your thoughts at this point on Corey Mills and if you'll be endorsing Ryan Elijah.
Oh, well, I said last week I am not supporting Corey Mills. All right, there we have it. We apologize for that one. Apparently, the Governor DeSantis' microphone does not want to work. And it shows you the differences between Republicans and Democrats. Here you have Corey Mills, who's under investigation by the House for unethical behavior. And then he ran again, was primaried out. And what Governor DeSantis was trying to say was that if Corey Mills had been renominated, Florida, ruby red Florida, could have lost a seat. Now, remember, Florida, and if we could have redistricted, we would have, but we can't because we don't have enough population. However, the crazy thing about this is that they're going to get 4 additional Republican seats that we hope. And one of them had a guy that was very challenged when it came to ethics. And unlike the libs with Plattner and Schmatner and Battner, the Republicans take care of their own. They primaried him out. Speaking of taking care of their own, here is gallivanting Gavin. You remember the last time he was in Boise, he went to the used bookstore and said to Idaho Democrats, "I believe in you."
Would you be a good president? We'll see. I don't know. What do you think you would? That's a difficult question to answer. I mean, it's so I have no idea. I would like to think I would be, but that's for others to determine. By the way, I think I was a pretty good mayor. I think I was pretty good, but people have different opinions, so I'm not naive about it.
So here we have, let's say you're opening a can of carbonated water, and you're at your home, maybe in Orange County, Schmorange County, wherever, and you hear this interview, and this is a guy that has caused more people to leave California than anyone else. And, just the faux, what do we call this? The faux modesty. You know what I mean? Would you be a good president? I don't know.
Would you be a good president? We'll see. I don't know. What do you think you would? That's a difficult question to answer. I mean, it's so I have no idea. I would like to think I would be, but that's for others to determine. By the way, I think I was a pretty good mayor. I think I was pretty good, but people have different opinions, so I'm not naive about it.
580-5436-580-KIDO, and somewhere some Democrat is saying, oh my goodness gracious, isn't he charming? Earlier today, and we'll play the racial game for a moment because the libs always do that with us, but I don't want to ask the question. I mean, this is a program where you give your opinion, and I think the Democrats have a white guy problem. Remember, this is a party that talks about race and ethnicity and DEI and reparations and socialism and everything else. And now that you have 3 candidates that are men, that identify as men, that are family men that aren't married to men that are, in fact, most likely running for the White House. Gallivanting Gavin, he's out this year. A lot of people from California now living in Idaho saying thank you. Gavin's out. Kamala is not in. So you have Gavin Newsom, West Coast. Yo, what do they call that? East Coast, West Coast. So he's representing the West Coast. You go to the newcomer, the new man on the scene, Ossoff. Yo, Ossoff. John Ossoff, who has made, and it's surprising to me, and I give it to Chandler, who called into this program at 580-KIDO and said, Kevin Miller, watch out for this guy Ossoff. I've been in Georgia. He's rolling. He actually has Republican mayors endorsing him. And Ossoff, what, is an educated white liberal that's an elitist. So Ossoff, but you listen to him talk, he does have a weird syntax, though. Very diabolical, but charismatic. So he starts calling Donald Trump names. Now, I think today, and look, we're a talk show. We're not Robert's Rules of Order. When you start calling people names, like not funny names, I think loon is a funny name, or lib is a funny name. But when you start going personal on people, you lose something. And Ossoff went personal with Natalie Harp, with the president, and all sorts of things. That plays for the base. It doesn't play for the middle. The president has the same challenges, but he's the president, the grand disruptor, the grand outlier. Then we have Josh Shapiro. We could call him, I guess we would call Ossoff the SEC candidate, the Southern guy. And then we have another white guy, Josh Shapiro, who should have been the vice president, except he was smarter than the president. So, or not the president, the presidential nominee, right? So, at 580-5436-580-KIDO, here you have Shapiro in Pennsylvania, the bellwether state, the purple state, the this, that, the other, a northeastern liberal. Has a family, actually was had to leave the governor's office because an arsonist burned it down? Compelling story. Never mind Buttigieg, never mind AOC. But again, if you're the Democrats, don't you want someone different? Perhaps the guy in Maryland. Maybe you want to go back to the black community, the African-American community. A very well-spoken veteran who does an incredible job. You could talk about him. AOC, when we're looking at other people as well. The Democrats do have a problem. And we're going to see how that plays out. But again, I go back to these candidates, whether you're talking about, and look, let's throw out race. Let's say Wes Moore. Democrats now have a straight guy problem. Decorated veteran, incredibly does well on camera, even better than the Democratic standard bearer, Barack Obama. Not as aloof, very relatable. But he's in the Northeast. I'm trying to think. Buttigieg, he's not straight. And he's married to a guy. And are people ready for that? I don't know. But if you look at the accomplishments, and this is, I guess you could say, opposition research, or when you were in the military, Op 4. When you're doing the research, you look at Shapiro, Pennsylvania, one of the, 10 most populous states, California with Newsom, West Coast, East Coast, and then the Southern guy with Ossoff. So the Democrats will be interesting to see if they try to go normal or not. Speaking of normal, no one likes it when you have a plumbing problem. No one, sometimes you ever do the woe is me? Woe is me. I'm a martyr. I'm this, I'm that. Echoes of my childhood. However, when you have an issue like the toilet doesn't work, or the garbage disposal doesn't work, or the air conditioner is in trouble, call our friends at Beacon Plumbing. And yes, Kevin Miller, and more importantly, Mrs. Miller, call Beacon Plumbing. Their number, 904-9642. That's 904-9642. Truly, stop freaking, call Beacon. And we're not just talking about Beacon Plumbing, but Beacon Electrical, Beacon Septic, Beacon HVAC, gas, they handle it all. And like I said before, it's amazing now. We've got this new water filtration system, and the water is clean and everything is clean, and they showed us how to do it. Even me, I can figure it out, helping us with our, I was going to say electrical system, but our air conditioner. Truly great service. You have a lot of choices. My personal choice, my professional choice for me, my family, my friends is Beacon Plumbing. 904-9642. 904-9642. We go to Ben, who joins us now once again from Idaho City. Ben, good morning. You're on 580 KIDO.
Good morning, Kevin. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Hey, just wanted to respond to Senator Risch, but also concerned. I apologize if you felt like you need to redeem yourself. You're a person of high integrity, and it was more of just a discussion on that overgeneralization than on you. I really appreciate your comments back. But on Senator Risch, he had a lot of great comments today, but the last one with the illegals working on the dairies and the apple orchards, I feel like we need to ask ourselves, do we believe in the ability to balance out our economy with supply and demand? Growing up, my family had a potato farm, and so I spent a lot of time roguing potatoes, chasing the cows around, getting the corn watered. And one of my first ventures was changing sprinkler pipes, and I think that's something lost with our youth. My son, he's had a job working at a local Subway. Is that really the best we can come up with for our kids? Because I feel like there's a lot to be learned in those agricultural jobs, the longer hours, just the facing yourself. And I love the people from Mexico, but I want them to do that in Mexico. I want our kids, our youth, our entrepreneurs to go and work on, learn the agricultural stuff. And with apples, if they become expensive, people can start growing apple trees in their backyard. That's not a problem. If milk becomes expensive, it's not a life-saving food. I think we learned from our dealings with China that just because we want cheap things, we don't necessarily like the results of having that trade-off in the end. So I disagree wholeheartedly with his argument that the illegals are here to save us from high prices in the agricultural committee or agricultural area. I think farmers, ranchers, I think that they can rise to the occasion. And I truly believe that capitalism can find a balance out for that. So just wanted to mention that disagreement with Senator Risch.
Well, that was Congressman Simpson, but Ben, look,
I'm sorry.
We're all
sorry about that.
It's okay. We appreciate that, but what I appreciate is, Congressman Simpson, whether you agree with him or not, always takes the time to come in, and it's great to have him back in the rotation. And it is a challenge. On one hand, you have, and I can tell you this, and I won't name the company, but there's a major company that was insanely profitable, and they were dependent on the legal Hispanic community. Now that money has dried up because of the president and the illegals all being shipped home and ICE and everything else. And I'm going, well, what does that say abstractly or concretely that we have a legitimate, profitable money printing business that their entire entity is on the ropes because we're actually enforcing our laws? Ben?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I feel like Congressman Simpson, apologize, I got his name wrong there, mixed up. Out of the 4 or 5 different points you brought up, he's got such great power and ability to speak for Idaho at the national level. But I don't think that this is a fight that we need to keep fighting. I think it's going to be painful. It's going to take some change in thought. It's going to take a little bit of effort. But I feel like Idaho can rise to this occasion. We have a lot of other opportunities to bring in income into Idaho, and I feel like we have an upcoming youth. We keep talking about how they're challenged by social ideas and stuff, and I feel like if you don't give them hard things when they're young, they're not going to be able to accept hard adult decisions when they get older. So, yeah, I feel like that would be something I would hope he would revisit.
Ben, thank you for the call.
Thank you.
More coming up next. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. By the way, good morning, Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Don't forget the free KIDO Talk Radio app. And, of course, the Spirit of Voice Balloon Classic coming up. But I'm sitting here looking at a couple of things, and I hope this is fake. But if it isn't, this is pretty bad, where apparently I'm not going to mention the place, but if you've seen the whole thing, you have a lady filming being thrown out of a coffee shop because she's pro-life. And the guy there that owns the coffee shop, he was saying that he worked hard to get abortion on the ballot. I'm paraphrasing, and you're not welcome, and compare the pro-lifers to the KKK. Maybe you've seen that. It doesn't look AI generated, but we always want to be responsible when we're on the federal airwaves. We always want to be responsible citizens, and we would never want to harm anyone or anyone's business. And in reality, you take a look at things. I suppose a business has a right to give you the boot, but it shows you how the issue of life will continue to bubble up and culminate in the November election. 580 KIDO, let's get you to work safely and on time. We like to say the right way. Good morning, Robin.
Good morning, Kevin. KIDO Talk Radio traffic from the Pacific Steel and Recycling Studio. We've still got some heavy traffic going through the Meridian area on the eastbound freeway. Looks like it's around 10 Mile through the Flying Y. Then on the inbound connector, we've got another crash. It's going to be just before River Street exit, so traffic is getting backed up for about a mile or two there. Fence and Lumber, your Cedar Factory outlet, saving you 70% off big box stores in Kuna and online at fenceandlumber.com. I'm Robin Scott. That's your KIDO Talk Radio.
PeakHealthIdaho.com. We'll tell you about them in a minute. Love Dr. Lyle and the great work they're doing to restore and give you proactive, preventative maintenance on your body. Speaking of which, we'll call him our body man. Jeff Bacon joins us now to talk about a lot of things. Jeff, thank you for your service to our nation as a veteran. And your continued service to the state of Idaho with the Wyakin Foundation and all that you do. So thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you, Kevin. It's always a pleasure to talk with you.
Well, here we are. A lot going on in your old neighborhood, the Strait of Hormuz, the Persian Gulf, the Gulf of Oman, this, that, and the other, bro. I love just kind of this highfalutin thing. Just have at it, sir. Your thoughts.
Highfalutin. Well, I probably start with the Lincoln. I've talked with a few of my contacts in the Navy about the Lincoln. A lot of stories about conditions on board. A lot of photos. You talked about AI stuff just a few minutes ago. Some of those photos you see on the internet are AI generated, or they're from other ships or ships that are in the yards or whatever. So I've asked around, what's the ground truth here, and I even saw an article from Admiral Mullen, who, if you remember, Admiral Mullen was the only standing chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to ever visit Idaho. He came here in 2011 to support Wyakin, actually. And I really respect the guy. He wrote a foreword for one of my cartoon books, too. And he talked about it, and he said that the truth is somewhere in between. Deployments are hard. The Lincoln has been out there for 250 days without a port call, which is rare. Just for some context, during the Vietnam War, the Midway was underway for 332 days. The Gerald Ford, if you recall, just recently had been on deployment for 309 days. The Lincoln's been out for 250 days. But the difference is those other two ships had port calls. The last port call that the Lincoln had was in December of last year in Guam, and it was a 2-day port call. So, we talked last time about boredom, about the routine, about the fatigue that sort of sets in where you're always on high alert, you're always doing combat operations. And I think that's probably what we're seeing. The difference between when you and I served and today's military is that they have instant communication. So
Yep.
sailors are texting home. They're in many cases they have video conferences with people back home, and so you have a bad day. A sailor has a bad day, and they're grousing about something. That's going to go home immediately. And if you're a parent or you're a spouse, you're worried about your counterpart, and so you start to talk about it, and those things become blown up in many cases. Sometimes they're true. Sometimes, in many cases, they get overinflated. So my opinion, I think, matches Admiral Mullen, which is that because the deployment has been so long and there has been fatigue, there has been boredom that set in, the sailors are going to have some grousing. But when you start hearing about things like shortage of food, about toilets overflowing, that sort of thing, I don't buy it. I know there's a disruption for a few days in the logistics train because of the combat operations, and some of the ports that they were using were not available. But logistics is a highlight of our military, and they have solved that problem. So it's a tough. Deployments are hard, and sailors are away from their families for months, and it's always difficult. But I don't see a looming problem. I will say one thing that I think is sad is when you get back from a deployment, especially a long one like they've been on, it's usually a celebration when you get home, and you've got thousands of people on the pier. They always let the sailors off first that have had kids while they're on deployment, and so you get to meet their children for the first time. That's always a tradition. And then you have all these families waiting for them. There's all these signs and celebrations. And I think it's a little bit sad that they're going to go home. Lincoln's going to go home, and there's going to be this sort of pall over their deployment. And that they're going to get asked about all these conditions and how terrible it was. And that's a shame to me.
Jeff Bacon joining us here. Jeff, before we talk about more issues, though, I have to get my liberal media credentials here, and we do have the guided missile destroyer USS Benfold that was without power for 4 days as well. They had to be towed to the Philippines. What's your take on that, sir?
That's very rare. I mean, they've got 3 generators on board for redundancy, and there's I think 4 gas turbine as well for propulsion. And I'm not getting a lot of news as to what actually happened, but I mean, what you said is exactly right. They're without power for 4 days, and that's without power. So they didn't have food, they didn't have electricity, and so that before George Washington headed out to the Middle East, this is still in the Western Pacific, provided support to the crew and made sure that they were fed and they got everything they needed. My guess is that we do routine testing of all the lube oil and all of the parts that make up the machinery spaces. If they detect shards of metal in the lube oil, that's a major casualty, because that means something is shearing apart. My guess, and I could be completely wrong on this, is that that's what they found. Is they found metal shards in the lube oil, which would contaminate all of the generators. So for a safety measure, they would have to shut those things down. I did notice that they got into Subic Bay and repaired it within a couple of days, and they're back underway again. So that's a major deal, and very rare. I don't know if I've ever heard of a ship being without power for 4 days at sea.
Jeff, please hang on. More coming up with our great friend Jeff Bacon next. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO, with this the world's shortest road race coming to Boise, the IG Fun Run.
I love the way you said that this morning. Yeah, it's the world's shortest race in the entire world, and it's the only official instant gratification 0 mile fun run. And I say that because the whole thing was inspired by a cartoon by Boise cartoonist Steve Moore, who draws In the Bleachers, and he's going to be there, and he'll be signing autographs, and we're going to treat him as royalty. So, yeah, it's a race for charity. We're raising money for the Wyakin Foundation, and the whole idea is it's set up just like a marathon. It's got all the trappings of a marathon, except you don't have to actually run. And we have the giant potato that we use for New Year's is going to be there to do a countdown. I was talking with Dylan Klein just the other day. He's going to put out fog from the potato as we get closer to the start. Get all hyped up. Kevin, you're going to be on air and live interviewing people, and you're going to be the one that says, "Gentlemen, start your engines. Only use what's in the cartoon," which is, on runners to your mark, get set, go. Now go get your T-shirts. We have swag bags. Idaho Pizza Company gave us swag bags. They're awesome, black nylon swag bags. We've got several companies from around the Treasure Valley, Idaho Candy, and Teton Valley are all putting stuff into the swag bags. So it'll be, it's just like a marathon, except you don't have to do any sweating. And as you cross into the finish line and cross the start line and the finish line, there's a big celebration. We'll have live music. There's a group coming up from the World War II Museum called the Victory Bells. They sing kind of like the Andrews Sisters. They're going to be live on stage. They're phenomenal. They're in like World War II uniforms, and they sing all the old songs. And we've got food trucks, and you had mentioned the cartoonists. We have some of the world's most famous cartoonists are going to be there and drawing for the crowd, drawing the souvenir drawings. They can do caricatures. They can do their own characters. We all grew up with the family circus, for example, and the little kid, if you remember, that ran around and had little dots following him around the neighborhood when he had to go from one place to another, that was Jeffy. Well, Jeffy is a real guy, and he's, I think, 71 years old now, and he's the one that draws the cartoon strip. I've been to Iraq with him, Afghanistan with him, and he's going to be there. And we've got Pearls Before Swine. I was at a show about maybe 5 years ago or so in Boise, and Stefan Pastis, the guy that draws that cartoon, was there with all of his adoring fans. And so I invite them to come because he's going to be there as well, and he can draw autographs. And we've got Baby Blues, we got Mad Magazine, Tundra, Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty is drawn by a guy named Jeff Myers. Jeff is a local boy. He lives right there in the Treasure Valley, and has been at all of our events in the Treasure Valley, and very popular because Rick and Morty is very popular. So it's going to be a show. It'll be just a blast, very family friendly. We will have Humphrey from the Hawks is going to be there. We're hoping to have a couple other mascots there as well. Firefighters from around the Treasure Valley are going to be there with equipment that the kids can crawl on. Lazy Boy is our event sponsor. They're going to have Lazy Boy chairs that you can relax in and take a load off after you've had that rigorous run. So it'll be a blast. And since I'm talking to you, Kevin, as you know, you're the first guy I called when I came up with this idea and asked you to do this. And you're the perfect MC for this. I'm a huge fan of yours anyhow, and I think we're just going to have a blast.
Well, and Jeff, for people that want to take part in this, it's going to be a great, wild, family-friendly, fun event. Where can they go?
It's easy, very easy to sign up. It's called igfunrun.com. IG stands for instant gratification. igfunrun.com. And when you sign up, you can sign up for teams. I heard you talking to Patriot Ray last couple of days. Patriot Ray, you can set up your own team if you want to. I will tell you there is a KIDO team that's already set up there on the drop-down menu. So we've got the Elks and the Rotary and the Lions Club and Wyakin Foundation and Submarine Vets of Idaho. They're actually the number one team so far. They got 7 people signed up. Micron is in there with teams. So the more competition we can have, the better. And the whole idea is just to get people out there so we can raise money for the veterans. That's the whole idea.
Our great friend Jeff Bacon joining us. So, Jeff, I really loved your thoughts on Admiral Mullen because I caught him And if you didn't catch it, you can always go to YouTube. It's there because everything's on YouTube. His interview with Martha Raddatz from Sundays this week, and just such gravitas, just such a mastery of what's really going on there. And look, whether you like Martha Raddatz or not, she has such a big heart for the military. And even though she was trying to lob the IEDs at him, he handled it all in a masterful way. But going back to Admiral Mullen and just his experience, and then he talked about the carriers where back in the early 2000s, he debated with Don Rumsfeld and said, look, we need 12, we have 11, and in the world we're living in now, we need more carrier groups and carriers. For those that didn't catch it, and again, you spoke so highly of Admiral Mullen, your thoughts on really the future of the Navy. We've been sounding the alarm that our Navy's not getting bigger, it's getting smaller.
Right. First of all, on Admiral Mullen, just a couple of things that people probably don't know. When he came out here, he came out to, we were just starting up Wyatt at the time, and he came out because he was interested in what we're doing. He set up, I think, 7 different visits around the Treasure Valley. The very first visit was quiet. He didn't advertise it. It was for the Gold Star families in around the Treasure Valley and into eastern Oregon. Very dignified, very humble. Met each one of them, talked with each one of them, a lot of hugs. And then he went around the Treasure Valley, and his criteria was, no, but I don't want any canned questions. It's an open mic, or else I won't do it. So every place he went like the City Club, for example, he had a packed house, 2 open mics, and he stood there on stage and fielded any question that came at him. And it was a beautiful display. And then he visited the VA, and he visited other sites around town, and it was a remarkable performance. And the whole time he is humble, very dignified. So any advice he gives to the president or to the Secretary of Defense, now Secretary of War, I would listen to. And if he feels that we need an extra carrier, I mean, I could give you my opinion, but nobody cares what Jeff Bacon thinks. But if Admiral Mullen is saying we need an extra carrier, what's in his mind is, right now we have 11, so about a third of them are on deployment. About a third of them are doing workups, we're getting ready to go on deployment. About a third of them are in the yards getting repaired. So when you start thinking about global conflicts and the limitations you have, you can look no further than what we're seeing right now with the Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln is coming back. The ship that is replacing Lincoln is the George Washington. George Washington is home ported in Japan. So they have been in the Western Pacific. They're the ones that helped the Benfold in the Western Pacific when Benfold had its problems. They now have gone through the Strait of Malacca, and they're in the Indian Ocean on the way to the Persian Gulf. Well, now we have a gap in the Western Pacific. There's nobody out there, no carrier out in the Western Pacific right now. So if there was something to happen around Taiwan or some other country in the Western Pacific, we don't have a carrier there. So his point is, you got to have this redundancy so we can handle not just one conflict, but 2 conflicts, or maybe even 3 conflicts, so that we're not caught with our pants down, for lack of a better term. So I think it's very important, and the carriers have such a strategic value, not just obviously tactical because of the air wing on board, but strategic as well. I mean, you've always heard the old adage, that whenever there's a conflict, the president always asks where are the carriers, and that's a true story. So if Admiral Mullen thinks that we need 12 carriers, we need 12 carriers.
No, I would agree with you, and going back to, and maybe Jeff, because you and I are a little long in the tooth, if you will, but the way Mullen handles things, it's just so different than what we have today, where it's clicks and dips and daps and dupes, and just thoroughly explaining things and saying, and then again, Martha Raddatz, who has done so much for the military, but again, with her bias, well, didn't they plan this? And he goes, well, something, we do plan it. Well, what about the troops? Well, they do prepare for war, and war is difficult, and the military is difficult. The way he just astutely handled that interview was just amazing. I would hope, unlike a lot of people, though, I don't think he clamors for the limelight, but he would be great to be out there all the time.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And what you see with him is real. I mean, he doesn't put on any airs. He does a lot of things behind the scenes that you just don't see. His wife came out with him when he came to Idaho, and they visited with veterans and also separated women veterans to talk about the trauma that they saw. None of that was advertised. He goes out periodically, I don't know how often, but periodically to Arlington and visits graves there. He's a true patriot. I mean, he's very religious. He's a Catholic, God-fearing man, and he made some decisions. If you remember the Don't Ask, Don't Tell, he was very much involved with Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and whether we're going to keep that or we're going to allow gays to serve in the military. Very devout Catholic, and he said, I can't get past the fact that we're asking people to lie. He said, so he was in favor of opening the doors and allowing gays to serve in the military openly. And if you think about the conflict he had internally and what a professional he was to think about, what we're trying to teach people. If you encourage them to lie or to be deceptive, where does that lead? And he made that very, very, I know it had to be a very difficult decision for him, but he made it. And I have just a world of respect for the man.
Jeff Bacon joining us here. Jeff, a couple more questions. What do you think it's like for the sailors in that region? Obviously, we talk about the instant communication. We're getting a ton of negative stuff here. Obviously, we want to make sure that we have truth in the media, but everything seems to be overwhelmingly negative. Does that impact those folks that are, doing the mission right now, sir?
I think it does. I will say I saw a stat just the other day that the Lincoln this year has the highest reenlistment rate of any carrier in the Navy. So to kind of keep things in context, but I think the feedback they get, because they get CNN, they get Fox News, they can watch that out on the carrier, so they hear this stuff. It has to have an impact on them. I would think if I were on that ship, I would have more of a sense of resolve and maybe anger that, hey, what's being characterized, what's being overblown here is not what you're actually seeing on this ship. Sailors, we got 5,700 people on the crew. Well, if you have a town of 5,700 people, you're going to have all kinds of personalities and people who are very positive, people who are very negative. When the negative ones get the microphone, then it starts to taint what everybody thinks about everybody else. And I would imagine that on the Lincoln there is some of that bitterness, maybe too strong a word, but disappointment that their crews, who's been phenomenal crews. I mean, just incredible success as an aircraft carrier in combat operations, is being tainted by a few people who are angry. I mean, I was out on the USS Peleliu one time, and I went incognito but this time I was out of uniform, and I went down to the laundry because I thought I can get some. This is gold when it comes to Navy cartoons. You go down to laundry because that's a temporary duty. So I talked to a sailor down there that was just bitter about being down, having to clean dirty clothes when his training was in electronics technician stuff, and I felt sorry for the guy, and then I went up to the scullery, which is where they do dirty dishes, and I talked with a young man there, and I thought, okay, this is going to be just as good. And I said, what do you think about what you're doing? He said, well, the way I see it is I clean these dishes and I make life pleasant for the sailors who are having dinner. That means they're going to do their job better. That means that a ship is going to perform better. And it was inspiring to listen to that young man. And that kind of gives you an idea that you have different opinions, and in rough conditions, you'll always have some people that are negative, but you'll also have a whole bunch of people that know why they're out there, have a sense of purpose, a sense of patriotism. And I would guess that if you look at the reenlistment rates on the Lincoln, I would imagine that their morale is much higher than what we're hearing about, and the conditions are much better than what people are suspecting.
Jeff Bacon joining us one more time. The IG Fund Run, and really the group that benefits from that, a group started here with you and others, the Wyakin Foundation, sir.
Yes, sir. For the race, it's igfundrun.com, And the organization that we're benefiting is the Wyakin Foundation, which is an inspiring organization founded right in the Treasure Valley. It serves several hundred veterans with the ultimate goal of getting them into a viable and successful career, not just a job, but a career, so they can contribute again and they can give back to the community. And it's been a great success, a huge success, named one of the best nonprofits in the nation. And their website is www.wyakin.org, WYAKIN. And Wyakin is a Nez Perce term, stands for guardian spirit.
Jeff Bacon, to be continued. Thank you for your service, and thank you for taking care of all of us here in Idaho, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, I look forward to seeing you at the IG Fun Run. I'll be talking to you before then, hopefully, and it's going to be a hoot. It'll be great to see you again.
A hoot indeed. Yes, sir. Thank you, Jeff. Take care.
Okay, you too, Kevin. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Our great friend Jeff Bacon. We'll have more of your calls next. 580-KIDO. Fox News Now. 580-KIDO. Phone numbers here. 580-5436. 580-KIDO. I want to thank, again, Jeff Bacon, Congressman Simpson, and so many of you that have called in today. And again, thank our friends at Peak Health Idaho. We'll tell you about them in a minute. Let's go to a man who knows all about the peak and the health. That is TPB on 580-KIDO.
Well, I'm not so sure about the peak and the health, but I do know you've got probably the best show in town right here on KIDO. You spoke this morning about nuclear waste, and I want to address this as a real problem here for Idaho. You know, I talked about this many years ago, and how Governor Batten Andrews stopped shipments of nuclear waste to the INL for storage and eventual removal, but forgot it was Governor Otto who abrogated the agreement by agreeing to accept 50 spent nuclear rods to the INL for research. But we all know if you give the government an inch, they're going to take a yard. Otter sold out the Batten Andrews agreement for $20 million in INL funding for the next 5 years. And here we are once again with the nuclear waste problem at our doorstep. Much of the decision to stop the waste was because of concerns about the Eastern Snake River Plain aquifer, which runs under the nuclear facility, and the possible contamination that would destroy agriculture in much of the land using the water from the aquifer. This appears to be a done deal in my mind, as Little already signed last year a memorandum of understanding with the government in July 2024. If Idaho makes this deal, it would agree to be the host to accept out-of-state nuclear fuel, spent nuclear fuel, and high-level radioactive waste. Remember, the 95 agreement said the waste would be removed from Idaho. But as usual, the government has reneged on holding up their end of the deal. Little and Bedke are getting in bed with the feds and will tell Idahoans that the Nuclear Life Cycle Innovations Campus agreement will not be a problem. I say, they will not be a problem until they are a problem. While they promise that this deal will not put Idaho's environment, including the Snake River aquifer, at risk, we all know from experience that there are no guarantees when it comes to nuclear waste and the problems that can occur if there are mistakes and accidents in its transportation. Becky says it's not waste, but fuel that can be recycled. So why do we have to revise the 95 agreement? The reason is because the agreement says we will accept spent nuclear fuel and high-level radioactive waste. If it is so safe, how about we bury it in Bedke and Little's land? It's not just the long-term storage, Kevin, that we need to worry about. It's the accidents that could occur and the serious concern about moving it in and out, hopefully out of our state, and the potential for an accident. And I heard Congressman Simpson this morning. He supported the nuclear deal. on your show, but then again, he was the same guy in 2021 who wanted to breach all of the dams in western Idaho that would have destroyed the ag industry there. The real question for Idahoans is, will our politicians sell Idaho's environment for 30 pieces of silver and leave us all wondering if the waste will ever affect the Snake River aquifer, or if the government will ever hold up its promise and remove this waste, as it has never lived up to a previous agreement. So on top of that, we have the data centers overuse of our electric power grid and our water supply. We now need to worry about a new nuclear waste problem. Thank you, Governor Little, and thank you, Bedke, for all you do for Idaho and its people. I thank you very much for my time, Mr. Miller. People need to think about what's going on in Idaho and why it's happening.
Well, I think that, again, it is going on in Idaho, and Congressman Simpson said Utah is in the lead, so we'll see how that plays out. But why would you not come to Idaho when you've got the INL and they're the nuclear experts?
Yes, indeed, they sure are. They're still trying to get rid of the liquid waste that they had from years ago. Where's the government? Did they ever take it down to Yucca Flats or out to Yucca Mountain? No. It's still here. So we get to store some more of it.
Well, but we're getting a lot of big money, too, though.
Oh, yes, we need some more big money so we can expand our budget. Maybe we can double it to $28 billion in the next 7 years. Excuse me, Kevin.
Well,
that's bad policy as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I'm just saying, a lot of options, a lot of information coming out. We always appreciate you giving us the information, but besides you, and maybe there are a few others, maybe the nuclear people will jump out, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of opposition to any of this stuff. I mean, what are you finding when you talk to people?
Depends on who you talk to. Talk to people in the valley, they don't say very much. Talk to people up in the ag areas, they're a little more concerned. They're selling out our environment for 30 pieces of silver, my friend.
Well, I think as long as people get their commission on it, I think they're okay with that. Look, that's not an endorsement, but that seems to be what's going on. I mean, yesterday you were talking about Micron. We just have this story that apparently now they're going to build a $10 billion research campus in Boise.
Yep, there goes the water again, my friend.
But again,
thinking about all these wonderful things.
It's not that I'm disagreeing with you, but I'm just saying, it's so funny. There was a term in radio. Somebody said it. It's not them. It's us. It appears.
It could very well be, my friend.
Yeah.
Idaho's not the same place I came to 33 years ago. I understand that, but I thought the people had more common sense, and maybe there aren't enough of them left, to not allow some of these things to happen. This is what destroys states and cities. This is what happened with Colorado. This is what happens with a lot of states, where they allow the government to take over just about everything. They no longer have a say. And this is what you wind up with. You suck in the nuclear waste. You allow them to take all of your natural resources and let them dissipate into nothingness. That's not a good place to live. I came here to live and enjoy this wonderful place that we have called Idaho. These guys are going to help to destroy it.
Well, again, we appreciate the information, and that's why it's a fascinating discussion, though, when you think of, regardless of what type of political persuasion you are, it seems that everybody's partnered with these massive entities.
Yes, and who's making the decisions about it? It's going to be the corporate industry. That's what they have been doing for the last 10, 20 years. Everybody forgets where Little came from. He was
but
the
it's
head
not
of
just.
IACI.
But it's just not Little. On the other hand, it's he's been elected and reelected and continues to be. There's been no alternative.
That's exactly right. And by the same token, he gets bolstered and he has all the money he needs to keep getting elected. Who knows? Maybe he'll run for another term.
Right, but it's not just. But there has been no alternative, is what I'm saying. You go after the governor, but if people had a problem with the governor, he would not be elected and reelected and reelected. People can complain about it, but they seem to like the job that he's doing.
He hasn't had any competition worthwhile. And I think that at some point in time, that's going to come up and rear its ugly head. He's not going to like it.
Well, you can't win if you don't play. Tea Party Bob, thank you for the call. And I love Tea Party Bob. And Tea Party Bob is well-researched and does some great work. But the fact remains, much to the chagrin of a lot of folks and to the joy of many others, is Governor Little has been elected, reelected, and will continue to do that as long as he wants the job. He has astutely quelled any type of negativity, any type of rebellion against him. I could say this. I had I'll just say an associate. I don't want to give this person away, that it was rumored that they were going to try to primary him. The governor and his crew reached out and had a good conversation with this individual. I've known other people that have done that. There's just not to beat an incumbent. You have to have the groundswell. The closest thing we've had to groundswell around here would be the windmills, and even that was very much muted. And it got the attention of Senator Risch, got the attention of the governor, Congressman Fulcher, our great friend, and others. And thankfully, President Trump came in and put an end to it. But when you're talking about nuclear waste, this is a huge, huge story. And what happens, and again, this is not a judgment, this is an observation, is you have a story that will come out of, let's say, the Idaho Capital Sun, and they will do the story, and sometimes people will pick it up, sometimes they don't, but there's no follow-up. So you could have more nuclear material coming here. It has to go somewhere. Are you comfortable with that? Are people angry about it? Are you angry about the power bill going up? And again, we have people that, promise things, and they go, I think in Idaho, and maybe you've lived in a place, you have a car, you have something, or a gym, or a restaurant, and we suffer from the it's not so bads. The it's not so bads, it's not about excellence. It's about it's not so bads. So I get stuck in traffic. It's not so bads. It's so I have to pay more for this. It's not so bads. And that's the way it is. We take a look at our education. Idaho Education News has done some outstanding pieces on the test results in Idaho. It's not where they need to be. A couple hours ago, we talked about West Ada leading the area with just over 50% of the people having an English language arts proficiency. Boise, a little closer to 50%. Nampa, under 50%. Caldwell, under 50%. And clearly we invest money in this, and it just seems to go not to getting better results. And when you take a look at charter schools and home schools and Catholic schools and Christian schools and secular schools and all these other home schools, it's not the amount of money spent per pupil that gets you the result. If that would be nice, we could solve it by just throwing money at things, which is why I've always been hypercritical since the end of Sherry Ibarra's term, and I didn't have a relationship with Sherry Ibarra as far as we would have her on. We had her on maybe 3 or 4 times. Wasn't the best in media, but she had a heart of an educator, and then she was primaried by someone who was running the State Board of Education, Superintendent Critchfield now, who's a very nice person. I believe she really cares, obviously, to do that job. I was just watching the board meetings, and, man, that's brutal. But clearly, and maybe there's nothing she can do. I mean, President Trump's talking about blowing up the Department of Education. And what are we getting out of our Department of Education? Something to ponder. Before we get to Clay and Buck, before we get to Sean, before we get to Lars, before we get to Glenn. Hey, I do want to remind you about our great friends at Peak Personalized Health. I just completed my little thingy where they put the little zap thing on you, and it shows you your blood sugar, this, that, and the other. And I was in range. And as I said before, my great friend Jeremy Fricks from Primary Health was congratulatory on my weight loss. For the first time, not pre-diabetic, not diabetic. The blood sugar's under control among my many health issues. And then I decided to talk to Dr. Eric Lyle, and I said, what can we do to try to get me some longevity? Get me some longevity, Dr. Lyle. And he said, first, we're going to start with a DEXA body scan, which shows you your fat that you can see and the fat that you can't see. Do you know that there's fat on your organs? That's right. Even people that are skinny fat, bodybuilding, less fat, you have fat on your organs. That's not good. What can we do about it? How about what's in your blood? We have the biomarkers. So I've gone all through that. I continue to work with Dr. Lyle, with Sean, the strength conditioning, and when he's not doing that, doing cardiac rehab. That's what his major was in at Utah. An incredibly local product. Love Sean. Beverly, who helps me with nutrition. And we're talking about a physician-led program, the gold standard in longevity medicine. Now, you can do the IV treatments. You can go into a clean, wonderful professional facility dealing with a doctor. That's right, a physician board certified led institution program, advanced diagnostics, continuous optimization. And the old VO2 max, again, I was squealing like a little baby. Oh, Sean, please don't let me do this. He goes, okay, we'll do it another way with the VO2 max. You've heard of Dr. Peter Attia. It's a very similar program. They're friendly, they're warm, they're inviting, and they are encouraging. PeakHealthIdaho.com. PeakHealthIdaho.com. Please call them 683-7325. 683-7325. Please tell them Kevin Miller sent you. 580-KIDO. We were actually a little ahead of this, if you will. So Micron now, in addition to everything else, they're going to build a $10 billion research campus in Boise. And I do want to thank the person that sent me this email. To correlate with that, we've got CNBC doing a profile on how Micron is not only changing Boise, but changing Idaho. And the first guy they quote is 580-KIDO's own Dave Petzo, which is pretty wild when you think about it. I mean, Dave has been covering Micron for many, many years, the good, the bad, the ups, the downs. And it's nice to see him being used as an expert, the same guy that will be on this Saturday from 8 to 10. Do appreciate his work and his insight into this. But I think this $10 billion thing has to do with the difference between New York and Idaho. In New York, and predominantly in the East Coast, with the exception of our friends in Utah, there is an anti-data center vibe going on. There is an anti-technology vibe going on. There is an anti-you-name-it going on, which is very, very wild. Here, whether you want to call us unregulated, more pro-tech, more pro-Micron, we're seeing, obviously, what we're seeing is the ability for these companies to do business here. And so $10 billion, obviously the new Boise State president, he's got the tech background. You're going to see more of a synergy with Boise State, with Micron, probably the University of Idaho, probably with all of our universities, just because you have this enormous facility. Not only do you have the working facility, but now you have the research facility. What does that mean? More international people. What does that mean? That we're going to have, more jobs, but more everything else. Something to look out for throughout the day. And obviously, we'll update it on our website. But, and you know, who's the big winner? Two of them from the opposite political ends. Number one would be Boise Mayor Lauren McLean, that was buddies with Joe Biden, was buddies with Pete Buttigieg, and she's the quarterback of this thing from the city of Boise's perspective. But it's not just a Boise win alone. It's also a win for the state of Idaho and the legislature that approved those incentives and those continued incentives for Micron. How about this? Want a 5-star experience the next time you buy a car? Check out our friends at Treasure Valley Subaru, where you will find 5-star Google reviews after 5-star Google reviews from customers who appreciate the low-key, helpful way Rob and his crew do business. Whether you're buying a new Subaru, a better-owned pre-owned car, or a like-new truck, they make car buying easy. Maybe that's why Treasure Valley Subaru is once again voted Best of Boise for new car dealership, used car dealership, and the dealer service department. Here's something else worth 5 stars. 0% financing for up to 75 months on new Outbacks, Crosstreks, Foresters, and the 3-row Ascent. That's right, Ascent. 0% for 75 months. That's one heck of a financing deal. 0% for 75 months. And Brandon at the Treasure Valley Service Center wants to remind everyone about their free, that's right, free vehicle safety and maintenance inspection for all makes and models. Before your next road trip or before you send the kid off to school, bring the car in and get it checked out. No cost for a little extra peace of mind. Treasure Valley Subaru, the Idaho Center Pre-Owned Superstore, Treasure Valley Trucks, and the Treasure Valley Service Center all together on the Idaho Center Auto Mall and online at TreasureValleySubaru.com. Good day. God bless. Keep the faith. Kevin Miller loves you. I got it all in, everybody. 580 KIDO.